Narcissist, many men, at love, I can love one, two, etc., in the moment, all good for the glory of life. Chapter 1. A man tells the truth about love. Why I don't believe in soulmates, at least not in North America. The simple reason I don't believe in soulmates is simply because I realized I wasn't born to be monogamous at about 28. Before then, I remember breaking up with a girl at about 23, sitting in my kitchen on a Thursday night feeling lonely. Then I asked myself, why do I feel lonely? I'm healthy, strong, I got money. I'm aging. I don't attract females much anymore, but that's okay. I can still live a great free life. What more could I or anyone want? Quality of life is not handed to anyone. You have to create for yourself. The idea of monogamous love is not in my daily thoughts. I live to be true to myself by being the person God made me to be, by releasing all that natural energy inside of me all the time. I can't feel lonely because my connection is to the divine essence, purity, and soul inside of me. I don't deny the fact that people can get lonely, but it's largely a manufactured entity created by people trying to sell us stuff to enhance our look and status, trying to imply that if we buy this or that, it might help us meet somebody who is going to rock our world, change our lives, and be a soulmate. I laugh at this because I'm a fixed entity. Regardless of whether I'm with or not with a soulmate, I'm still the same. I'm always the same. Romantic love, if it happens, is just some icing on the life I now live as an individual. To me, the average North American girl is not soulmate material for me. She might look good, have a bunch of trendy clothes and a good job, but she doesn't share my view of honoring whatever might be in her soul by releasing that natural energy all the time. Every second girl you talk to will mirror you and say she's spiritual, lives to be true to herself and be empowered as all the TV gurus say, but when you look at their lives as they really live, they're more likely to smoke cigarettes in a stupid attempt to keep their weight down while thumbing through some frivolous women's magazine to pass the time, rather than urgently trying to reach some inherent standard they might feel inside of them, buried over under many layers of cultural conditioning. The average North American girl, no matter how good she is, even if she is in one of the noble professions like teacher, nurse, doctor, etc., still gives up at least 30% of her mind to pop culture entertainment. Chances are that there are a few frivolous women's magazines on her coffee table, that she buys into that fake world of glamour created by people who sell cosmetics, jewelry, clothing, women's shoes, purses and hair color, and she's into that celebrity gossip, runway, red carpet stuff. You can easily tell by how much she watches those showbiz news entertainment tabloid shows. It's not a matter for me to worry that I can't compete with a girl who is anywhere from interested to obsessed with that fake world of glamour created by the advertising entertainment industry. The real issue is, how can I find a pure, wholesome girl who thinks her own thoughts away from all this mental pollution and wants to live a vital, down-to-earth life like I do? It's not gonna happen in North America. Every girl, even the good ones, are polluted to think that there is something special and magical about somebody sashaying down a runway wearing some crap that some supposed genius fashion designer created that everybody is supposedly mesmerized by, until next fashion season when it gets thrown on the trash bin and the cycle repeated over again. Talk about the Emperor's New Clothes, story written by Hans Christian Andersen. It's all alive and well in modern North America. With a fun girl, she knows it's all about getting high and having a good time. With other girls looking for a soulmate, not only is a part of their mind polluted by pop culture entertainment, another part is polluted by all that psychobabble crap that used to be the Oprah effect, but since she's gone now, many others have come forward to fill women's minds up with unrealistic, phony, supposedly profound self-help knowledge that many millions of women fall for. If you want true wisdom, live by your own natural inherent standard and read my book A Free Spirit's Search for Enlightenment. For me, a soulmate would be a beautiful, healthy girl whose mind has not been polluted by the bullshit of the modern world. If I ever marry, it will probably be a girl from a foreign culture with not much Western indoctrination. What's love got to do with it? You got 3 major problems of life. 1. Taking care of basic, practical needs. 2. Being happy with yourself. 3. Having loving relationships with people you want to be close to. To me it's simple. I spend most of my time honoring who I was born to be by nature, both to earn me a living and to feel good within myself. After you got these things covered, love should be easy. Love the one you're with. If you're happy within yourself, relationships should be easy. Pass some of your happiness on. I think one of the biggest unexplored reasons for broken marriages and relationship problems is that people are messed up, which to me means that they're not living by their true natures, so they're not in harmony with themselves. Because they're not in harmony with themselves, they can't be loving in a pure, simple way. Care enough about your life to strive to be true to who you are purely, not what you were brainwashed to be. If you can live like that, relationships should be easy because they're just an afterthought to your main allegiance of honoring who you are. After you release the natural energy in your soul on any given day, you should be feeling good. You want to pass some of your love on simply without drama or psychobabble. It seems to me that frustrated people, angry with their own lives, use relationships as a dumping ground for their problems of individual identity. I don't have those problems. I never give anyone a hard time. If someone gives me a hard time, I'm gone. I don't deal with them. It's really simple. Loving relationships aren't enough for you to live a great life because you alone live it. Other people cannot give you a sense of self-respect or a good feeling about yourself. In modern society, the quest for love is mostly a marketing tool to try to get people to become predictable, eternal consumers, always trying to impress each other so they can find a mate and end up living a comfortable family life in the suburbs. This is happiness as defined by mainstream society, yet I don't see very many happy people out there who look like they're enjoying their lives in the transcendent sense every day. Every morning when you wake up, the only person you answer to is yourself. Everybody is a loner. It's the natural human condition, although it's very unpopular to admit that all of us live alone in our own thoughts most of the time, and we will never click with another human being perfectly all the time. Nobody fits like a glove soulmate-wise with anybody else simply because our fantasies are much more lurid than real life could ever possibly be. There's a big rift between your fantasies and your real life. There's a big rift between your fantasies and everybody else's fantasies. This is the chasm of differences between every human being on the planet. We're all blobs of flesh walking around with our own self-centered, idealistic, utopian visions. We connect here and there, but we always go back to our own delusional fantasies, and that's the way it is. Beyond this, most relationships aren't exactly red hot on fire with passion. They're more like roommates rather than in soul-stirring, romantic, loving relationships. I sacrificed relationships in my youth because I didn't feel centered about my life. I was in love with a girl who I considered my soulmate, but I felt unfulfilled as a man because I wasn't at that place of ease where I knew my true identity, so I couldn't give her the love she deserved because I was too messed up inside to be a relaxed, loving person. If you can't feel full and good by yourself alone, nothing from the world can give it to you, not even love. A lover can enhance your happiness if you're already happy by yourself alone, but if you're not happy by yourself as an individual, a relationship won't magically enhance your state of being. You might delude yourself into thinking it does because of all the brainwash associated with romance being the key to happiness, but it doesn't. Self-honor does. You're proud of yourself because of what you do. You can't be a great lover of others unless you first feel fulfilled in your own skin. Other people can't help your sense of self-respect and well-being. They can tell you they love and support you. They can give you all kinds of compliments, hugs, trophies, awards, and be there when you need a friend. These things might feel nice for a minute, but they can't give you a feeling of harmony within yourself. You have to earn it by yourself. This is the massive mistake many millions make. They think that falling in love will magically clean up their feelings of existential loneliness, but you're still gonna spend most of your time alone in your own head, and you're still gonna have to answer to that sense of inner accountability within yourself. If you don't, you're screwed. Romantic love can't give you the self-respect and sense of well-being only you can give yourself by purging your natural energy with intensity and love for the process day after day. Keeping it real, man style. I eat moral fiber every day for breakfast, but one bowel movement and it's all gone. That's human nature. At 20, a man is rash in love, and again, perhaps at 50, a man of middle age enamored of a young girl is capable of sublime follies. But the man of 30 who loves for the first time is usually the embodiment of cautious discretion. He does not fall in love with a violent descent but rather lets himself gently down, continually testing the rope. Arnold Bennett, Anna of the Five Towns, 1902. Does the typical man desire love more than he loves desire? Do you want to be in love or free from love? I know what men think about because I know my own mind, and I have a lot of memories of what men are really thinking from my days of observing my buddies while in the military and living in college dorms, and it ain't the people you see walking the streets every day with their bland, expressionless faces. Every man is a sex-crazed, hedonist slut, at least in the privacy of his mind, and if you act like you're not, good for you, you're a gentleman, but you still don't fool me, so go on using your civilized, pro-social facade like I do. But when you're in a situation that demands truth, if you pretend you're something you're not, you're just perpetuating a lie about the true nature of man, and that doesn't really help anyone. Men can't help what they are. We were born that way. Testosterone is the sex hormone for both men and women. Men have much more than women. It's always there in our brains, invading our thoughts and feelings spontaneously and at will. My mind thinks in lusty technicolor. It doesn't make me immoral. It's just who I am, the way I was born, which is why I have no hang-ups about my sexuality and decided to write a book about it. All men are carnal in their minds. Some women are, but not all. It comes down to the higher levels of testosterone we have coursing through our veins. The good ones will either leave you alone or try to romance you the right way, and either try for a monogamous relationship or let you know upfront that they're just living life as a ride. The bad ones will shamelessly try every sleazeball trick to have sex with you, all the way from pretending they love you to I can make you a star to offering the sun and moon to seduction, which is sometimes date rape, to outright rape. It doesn't matter what so-called respectable position a guy has in society, once he's in private with you, anything could happen. I'm telling it like it is. All guys are dogs in their private thoughts. The good ones keep it to themselves and don't cross the line. The bad ones don't care, and there are plenty of them around. Ask any hooker, stripper, or bar girl about guys and she will tell you how depraved and slutty they are, even the so-called respectable ones. In their primal hearts, men don't see women as people, they see them as sex objects, like they might see a car with features like big boobs, big lips, bubble ass, etc. This is what the hidden war in modern society is all about. Men have the power, they want to keep it and do what they want with any attractive girl they come across. Some men reluctantly give women some power, but in their minds and among each other, women will always be a sex object, not an equal partner in life. Many women are willing victims, allowing themselves to get brainwashed by cosmetics commercials and frivolous magazines, then living out these frivolous lives dependent on their outer look and trendiness for their sense of well-being, and defining themselves by how attractive they are to men, although no one will ever admit it. The corporate machine has got people so brainwashed that even the massive consumer conformist flakes still see themselves as original and unbrainwashed. Some psychobablists say men are like this because they're jealous that women are more creative, intuitive, and loving than them, but I say it's just the primal imperative. You got the power, you want to keep it. The biggest, strongest, greatest hunter controls the territory. Men don't want to share the power with women, even though they grudgingly have to by law. Many have a hidden contempt for women because even though they see them as sex objects, the woman still holds some power over the guy by virtue of her sexuality, so guys get them back by being bastards to them and keeping them in their place as window dressing, generally dumb sex objects who had better keep their mouths shut and play the role of pretty, quiet thing. Men intuitively know what a good, real woman is, and the ones who want a wife want her. For marriage material, the end product is somebody healthy, wholesome, buxom, living her life humbly and simply without all the pretenses that the cosmetics industry and frivolous women's magazines have brainwashed most girls with. For casual sex, almost anyone will do, generally, the sluttier, dumber, the more brainwashed by pop culture, the more makeup, the more trendier, the more preppy, the more colored hair and the more skin exposed, the better. Men are like this by biology. People who study hormones, namely endocrinologists, say that testosterone is the sex hormone for both men and women. It's what makes us horny, but men have 7 to 10 times more in their bodies than women, so it's no surprise that sex is often on the minds of men while women typically release more of the nurturing hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and oxytocin. Men are generally unemotional sex addicts who like sex, get lonely only once in a while and don't care about romance all that much, except that many go along with the cultural program of monogamy and family, even though deep down, they're basically just your run-of-the-mill slam bam thank you ma unfeeling, unsensitive sex-craved mook. They want love in a clean package for a few minutes a day, then they don't want all the mundanity that goes with it, like the bitchy wife and the loud kids. Men like sex, sports, beer, gadgets, and being macho. Love is generally not a high priority. Men are born pure and perfect, meaning they have all the emotional wiring built into them to feel sensitive to a girl, but often they really just don't care all that much, even though they can sense her feelings. On top of that, way back when, early cultures had to get their men to fight in wars and sacrifice their lives for the tribe, so some wise, crafty elders somewhere created a thing called macho, which spawned a tough, unfeeling guy stereotype like the Spartans of old. It means being a man's man, a tough, proud, dignified, noble being. Most men get brainwashed by this standard, thus subordinating their emotions as they keep everything in and set out to prove themselves through their achievements, with little regard for intimacy except for the lip service of the monogamy ritual called marriage and family. All throughout history, men were savages, adventurers, explorers, warriors, dictators, killers, Machiavellian connivers, egomaniacs and macho men. Just because we now presumably live in the modern world doesn't mean that man's true nature has changed. Men are still like the Vikings, Alexander the Great's men, Napoleon's men, the Crusaders, or Pizarro's men in the Inca Empire, a bunch of selfish mooks who plunder to get what they want, rape women, then play cards and get drunk. We can't deny the fact that this cavalier spirit resides in the soul of all men, at least in fantasy form. The only way men want love is if it's perfect. If it's not, they can't be bothered unless it's to get sex, then get rid of the girl when they find a better ride. Many girls in capitalist countries are brought up to be obsessed with themselves and their looks, and very materialistic to boot, and many guys can't stand this, so they don't really care about love much, but in order to get sex, they play the game without feeling strong love for the girl. Some guys can't be bothered with love because they know that most girls are too demanding and off in fantasy land, so they either go for sex only or stay single. Every man wants love but also wants hassle-free sex without responsibility. The only way for any guy to truly fall in love is to meet a girl who's his worthy ideal, who, in his mind, is so nice and wonderful that he's willing to forego his life of freedom, bachelorhood, casual sex, drugs, booze, strip joints, cars, or whatever else he might happen to be into. A man can get by being free and getting his hassle-free sex, while many women feel a strong cultural and internal push to be with a man for the emotional, social, and financial security part of it. If you're a woman and want a man, you have to come off like this really wonderful and supportive creature in order to get him. And if you're truly wonderful and continue to be so throughout the evolution of the marriage, his love for you will flourish. I've seen cases of casual, even loser guys who've straightened out and got motivated when the right girl came along, believed in them and continued to support them. The only way to change a man, or anybody for that matter, is to be so nice that he wants to change on his own to please you and be with you because he loves you so much. You do that by being nice. It's the only way to really change someone. If they don't change because of your niceness, then they're jerks, not worth it. I will continue on with my warning about lukewarm love. If you're a girl and go with any guy anywhere anytime, know that if he doesn't see you as a wonderful, perfect, nice, idealistic feminine bundle of joy right off, it's dead in the water before it's even started. He's messing with you either to learn about sex or to get casual sex and maybe lead you along. All men know within 1 second whether they've met someone they're willing to fall in love with, therefore if they don't commit to you and go nuts over you right off the top, they either don't really want you or they're emotionally not ready for love. That's the rock bottom real deal. Men can't stand cookie cutter, white bread, vanilla ice cream, pop culture clone generic girls except to have sex with them, the type who are materialistic and frivolous, brainwashed by the mass media to think they're all that with the attitude that they're advanced, prima donnas. For love as opposed to sex, men don't want phony bubbly like out of an ad in a women's magazine, they want a down-to-earth girl who's not trying to be all that, thinking she's way worth it, they want somebody just being herself. Most American girls are brainwashed on materialism and frivolity, and men could care less about these things, which is why many go to another country looking for a wife or look for the simple blue-collar or country girl type, because they don't want that I'm all that, worth it baggage in there that middle and upper class girls with too much time on their hands get from reading too many frivolous women's magazines. Most girls have a Cinderella complex, which is alright, but most young ones under 25 think that they're way beautiful and fantastic and all guys are lusting for them, which isn't true. A generic girl is someone who has a naive outlook based on living with her parents, TV, and teen pop stars all her life and has a soft, pale look about her that tells you she's never broken a worthy sweat, doesn't know the real world and lives in a kind of limited fantasy land. She's the kind of girl who's had teen idols and dreams of a fun life at the sorority house with a very little scope of reality beyond this. They may be nice people like Jello is nice, but they have no true tested character, no originality, true inner beauty or even outer beauty, which takes effort. Anybody can have a pretty face, but if you don't have true wisdom or a body tempered by physical activity to go with it, you're not a true beauty. Many guys are so love-starved that they will settle for the first girl that smiles at them, but true feminine beauty is rare. In order for a real man, not a generic loser, to leave his hassle-free life behind, you have to be so much of a nice person that he's ready to commit to you and love you. Men generally weigh out the deal by your niceness versus his free lifestyle. If a piece of you reaches into the depths of his soul, capturing some of the warm nostalgia he feels for his memories of youth, then you've got him. That's his definition of love, and once he's hooked of his own free will, he wants you to be his girl and please you. But then there's another problem that I describe up ahead. My rock bottom POV is that I won't waste my time pursuing a girl for love unless she's way worth it, meaning beautiful, alluring with some sense of purity and innocence, and not a slave to the trivial forces of the media and frivolous women's magazines. I like girls with a sense of humility to them regardless of their beauty, and I like a girl who doesn't play hard to get and all that, who lets you know by her actions that she likes you and helps you out with the dating scene, not the queen shebas out there who expect guys to fall all over themselves flattering them and giving them unrequited adoration. I saw a girl on a dating show with her cell phone going off every 5 minutes or so with all her sorority friends calling. Not only was it rude, but it showed what an insecure, empty-headed person she was, needing to feel like she was part of the happening scene with all her friends. A guy is looking for someone he can feel comfortable with, not an airhead who feels a deep need to be popular. Many people find it very hard to be comfortable alone with a prospective suitor, so they act all bubbly and phony. Guys see through this. They want a quiet, nice, soft, gentle person who can be a friend as well as a lover. When I see a girl acting trendy with some expensive, cutsy purse or roots showing through, to me it's a sign of a lost soul, that she bothered to be so frivolous that she actually did something this meaningless to herself to try to get a certain look, as chicks in the phony fashion industry call it. This is the big fallacy. You think that you will attract more guys by consciously pursuing a fashionable look, but guys see that and know you're a trivial person full of yourself. Guys live in the real world. They're functional. Real men don't wear earrings nor bother with the GQ mentality. They will wear nice clothes and take care of themselves, but it's nothing more than a casual interest in looking reasonably nice. Real men are doing something positive for themselves and/or for the world. They don't obsess over their clothes or their looks, just like if you have true inner beauty, the right guy will know. If you pad it with phony stuff like too much lipstick and fake eyelashes, he will know and it might turn him off. Men want to see a little bit of sensitivity because then they know they can step in and feel needed by the object of their desires and help her, take care of her. I don't go for bubbly girls who act too happy. True happiness is not being bubbly. It's a quiet sense of self-respect because you know you're busting your butt doing whatever it is you do to try to fulfill your own personal potential as a dignified human being. Bubbly to me is a sign of phoniness. For casual sex, the sluttier and trendier the better because she feels she has to live up to her image of cool by being open-minded in bed as she thinks her fave MTV vamp would do. For true love, I like the more quiet, calm, thoughtful types. Real men look for a beautiful soul, softness, humility, and a sense of innocence in women they might want to fall in love with. Men will be sexually turned on by a bleach blonde, cosmetic-ted phony, but they wouldn't want to marry her because they know she's got the personality of a dragon, unless you're a dumb superficial rock and roller type who wants some flashy broad so you can live out the rock and roll porno broad fantasy. I watch a certain dating show and the one common theme I've noticed is that at least 70% of the girls think they're prima donnas special and expect the guy to worship them right off like he has to bend over backwards and serve them as queens. Guys can't stand these self-centered bitches who think they're all that. If a girl is truly nice, a guy will do everything for her of his own free will, but if she's a self-centered bitch thinking she's all that and expecting high treatment, forget it. Guys ain't stupid. The smart ones won't waste their time except if they're trying for sex. The weak ones will let her wrap him around her lil finger. Real men will know you're high maintenance and full of yourself. A lady of substance without her beauty who doesn't flaunt it is what all men crave, but it's a rare commodity. Most chicks are too busy coloring their hair, shopping for clothes and makeup in the mistaken belief that that's what makes them attractive. Men know the difference between a true beauty and a manufactured clone. Virtually all men, even bona fide nice guys, especially if they're young and naive, will seek out girls they feel nothing for just to have sex or learn about it. Most men really want love but want freedom too, so it's always a tough call for all guys, even after marriage. Men are probably more dreamy than girls. All men dream of beautiful, innocent, mythical fair maiden goddess types. All men want a truly beautiful girl with a bit of humility about herself. Paul Gauguin, banker turned artist who went to Tahiti in the 1890s, referred to Tahitian girls like Eve, still able to walk naked without indecency, preserving all her animal beauty. Men want this raw primal energy in their women, but nowadays, we got a bunch of modern day clones thinking they're sophisticated when they don't realize that men want the exact opposite, someone more real. Men are schizophrenic. They want love for 5 minutes, then they want freedom, then they want hassle-free sex. The dilemma never ends. Any guy who falls in love has got to be so taken by that girl that he's willing to give up a good chunk of his macho, freewheeling male ego in order to be her little love slave for the rest of their lives. That's the true price of love, but if it's true love, it doesn't feel like a price, it feels like joy because you love to please her, because seeing her happy and being happy with her makes you happy, and that's the rock bottom man's POV. The girl has gotta be so wonderful and beautiful that you will gladly do anything for her. Keeping it real, woman style. The more she feels cherished by someone she loves, the less need a woman has to wrestle with questions of her self-worth. The more she has committed herself to the welfare of another, the less need she has to ponder the expression of her own deeper self. A woman who loves makes the needs and wishes of those she loves a part of her own identity. Ruth Ellen Joss Elson. When it comes to women, modern men are idiots. They don't know what they want, and so they never want permanently what they get. They want a cream cake that is at the same time ham and eggs and at the same time porridge. They are fools. If only women weren't bound by fate to play up to them. D.H. Lawrence. There is a real value to lust. Period. Chick on CBC show Sex, Lies and Videotape. The big thing about women is that they want a shared experience with a guy, to feel the emotional connection called intimacy and romance. They don't even care about sex all that much. Women get their most intense orgasms through masturbation, but they like sex with guys because it cements the personal bond, whereas men generally just care about the sexual orgasm. This is the big difference. Women want that emotional attachment, men don't care as much about it beyond getting their rocks off, although they get lonely and want love too. Each has to give a little bit in a relationship in order to find a happy middle ground. Girls have to be more assertively sexy and guys have to be slower and more romantic. Having scanned at least 100 books written by women for women in the love game, most love books are written by women for women. Since guys in general think it's all bull, I've come to two major conclusions. Firstly, all women are love-struck and live in some romantic fantasy haze where some knight in shining armor is gonna come riding out of the sunset to hold them tight, rescue them, protect them, be with them, nurture them, talk to them and love them because they're such special individuals. They want a dreamy dreamboat, while most guys are average Joes trying to make a living. If you really want romance, pick a romantic, outgoing, extrovert, sociable guy up front and keep being romantic with him to keep falling in love and recreating the magic over and over again, because most guys are meat and potatoes. They will provide for you and be there for practical things, but they're not really romantic. So if that's what you really want, you have to find that type of guy, because speaking for myself as a typical guy, I feel that I've been there, done that for everything I wanted to do out in the mainstream world. I don't even like to go to amusement parks. They bore me. Most guys are bored by the dating ritual things they're supposed to do to have fun with a girl. So if you want a guy to do these type of things with, look for one up front, because most guys are too tired and or too lazy to want to do all these dull things with their romantic partner. When I was a kid, we used to draw war action scenes. I remember one time thumbing through a girl's coloring book and seeing a girl and a guy on all these different date scenarios, at the beach, skiing, hiking, biking, etc. I suppose this is what girls want, to do things like this with guys, but the thing is, if I go biking, I go at my own pace. I don't want some slowpoke slowing me down, plus the fact that most things bore me because I feel that I've already seen and done most things I wanted to do in the experiential sense. I don't want to go to amusement parks, cruises, or even go for a night out bowling or something. The only thing I really like to do in my downtime is to catch a buzz and have sex. Most guys are like me. We get set in our ways very quickly after 35 years old, so either find an extrovert guy who likes to go out and be romantic, or stick with your average dull guy like me and live with it. All girls live in that wedding fantasy thinking the honeymoon will go on forever. Most guys don't even like weddings, they're more low-key, they just wanna be in a quiet place with their girls unbothered by the world. Then they have to make their mark and earn their living while the girl is on this romantic fantasy trip. Slow down. Get real. Guys can't be romantic all that much simply because they have to work their butts off all day. Don't live in a fantasy world while your man lives in the real world and expect him to understand your fantasy romantic world, because he's more into quick sex than peace to rest and think about work. As far as sex goes, all guys are sex addicts. They wouldn't dare do with you what they think in their minds. Most guys have sex with their wives until about 35, then it goes downhill until most of their sex is the mental sex in their minds, or sex with a clandestine young lover somewhere. If you want to keep having sex with your husband, you have to stay attractive and keep pushing for romance and sex in a relaxed way, which equals that emotional connection you want, which most men over 35 are just too tired and cynical to bother with much. But if you want it, you have to fight to keep it alive. It's that simple. Use it or lose it. Most men and women alike lose it very quickly after about 35 years old, even though nobody ever admits it. If you want to keep having great sex, you have to love your lover and do it from the heart, like you really want to do it and mean it, not just a quickie to get off or out of obligation. Girls get depressed and fall out of love way more than men because their romantic fantasies are so way out of touch with reality, and then they think there's something wrong with them and beat themselves up because they read all those phony women's magazines which make it seem like everybody's having great love with, as they say, gorgeous guys but you. The psychobabble in these magazines brings me to my next point about being too deep. I don't think women are necessarily deeper and more profound than men, but a lot of psychobabble phony experts out there earn a good living by making up all kinds of stuff about past baggage, deep wounded inner child conflicts, imitating your parents, generational curses, birth order, etc., which makes a lot of naive women endlessly mull over their pasts and analyze themselves, trying to understand why they don't have the perfect love they crave. Plain and simple, life ain't that deep. Men ain't that deep. Most men live right here, right now. The past means nothing, they don't wanna hear it. If you look good, smell nice, and got a smile on your face, everything's cool. Psychobabble doesn't enter into it. Live in the moment. Don't read those psychobabble books then get all morbid about your relationship and start analyzing it to death. The common theme seems to be that every failed relationship builds another wall around your heart so that you get more insecure, cynical, and scared about love. So the solution is to break the walls down. Don't get cynical and treat every man as a person with good intentions until you see otherwise. Give guys a chance. Don't just assume they're all dogs. Many are, but some aren't. The swaggering ones are usually the dogs, the boring ones are usually the good guys. Swaggering guys are playboys, they think they can get them all just like prima donna girls think they can get them all. If you want love, don't fall for the charm of a con man. Watch every guy for a while before you give him your love. A big ego is fine, but where is it being channeled? Is the guy trying to discover the next cure for cancer or trying to write the great American novel, or is he a big lug, working a dull job somewhere, loud and boisterous to compensate for his unfulfilling life? Many guys are great actors just like many girls are. Guys want sex. Many don't want love even though they pretend to just to get sex, so I'm warning you, don't fall for a guy until he spends considerable time with you without sex and spends money on you. Spending money shows he at least gives some damn about you beyond just getting you into bed. If you feel negative or passive vibes in the relationship, either let it drift for a while or try to solve it straight up by going out on a date, then talking honestly about things. You have to get involved in the relationship and solve it just like you solve the problems in your own life. Things don't solve themselves. You have to get things out in the open and see where it's going. True love is being emotionally connected, to both give yourselves to each other openly. All emotional tension in a love affair comes from one side feeling that they're not being loved enough lately, which is why it's imperative that you keep an even keel, give your lover some attention, love them lovingly, and try to work on them to give you the same back by having the two of you to do things together, talk, go out, etc. Love is just two people going through life together. If you really love each other, all the trivial crap should be dispensed with very quickly by facing each other and clearing the air. That's the game. You have to do things together in order to keep an open, clear channel of emotional comfort between the two of you. Often one side gets alienated and it spirals. This is what you have to watch out for, losing the emotional connection such that you get alienated from each other. Good couples always nip emotional tension in the bud or de-escalate it by doing something fun together. When girls feel the love is threatened, many go wacky and get angry. Try to be more cool about it. Talk about it, try to be friends, but if he doesn't respond, don't hang on. Leave, he wasn't your soulmate. Too many girls hang on, depressed, hoping for changes that never come. Don't waste your time on an unresponsive guy. Guys are not emotionally scared or emotionally vacant as many women claim. It's just that they don't care. Life really ain't all that deep to guys. They know what's going on, they just wanna play it cool. If you wanna talk to your guy, tell him you wanna talk about things and he will talk to you about deep things. Don't assume guys are emotionally shallow. They just prefer the more easygoing, superficial route. Don't play games emotionally. Be straight up with a guy and he will respect you for it. Try to be your natural self, talk about sweet nice things that matter, but don't get too gushy and too deep about your wounded inner child past. Men can't stand baggage and most girls seem to have too much of it. Most men are flawed according to women's standards. Accept that fact and accept the fact that men are intrinsically less romantic than you'd like them to be. Accept the fact that men are sexual beings ruled by sex more so than love, and don't be so deep about love. A guy either likes you or he doesn't. It's not just what's inside that counts. If you get dumpy, it means you don't respect yourself, he's not sexually attracted to you, and he's embarrassed to be seen with you out in public, so you better see past all the psychobabble and remember, if you look good and give him good sex, everything will be alright. But if you get dumpy, it doesn't matter how nice you are, his primal attraction is gone, so love ain't all that deep to a guy. You better take care of yourself day by day, be a nice pleasant person, and don't get too deep with all that psychobabble over analysis crap. As a single guy, I rarely get lonely because I live for experience. There are only several things I really like to do, and it all equals the same thing, a release of my natural energy, which is my key to staying happy and inspired. It's all just life to me. Most girls can't live like this. Life is empty without a guy. Girls get deathly lonely without guys. Every weekend and every holiday, most single girls feel lonely because there ain't a guy around, while guys don't care, they just drink beer and watch TV. Loneliness to me means you're not living a full life. You should just live your life and not be so concerned about being paired off. Try to be a happy single person. It will keep you happy and increase your chances for love, because guys go for happy girls who are like them, easygoing, don't give a damn about too much. Most girls are self-centered by birthright, as are guys, but the media, cosmetics commercials, lingerie commercials, MTV, etc. has proliferated this attitude among women, where many think they're all that prima donna special, that all guys are groveling over them and guys have to cater to them, to meet their standards. This is too self-centered. You don't get anything out of real guys unless you're a genuinely nice person and give a little bit. Too many girls expect some knight in shining armor to go crazy trying to please them, but most guys want more peace, less hassle, less pressure, less high maintenance, just an easy friend to be with. Love is one part of life, not the whole part of it, which is why you shouldn't be too deep with your man. To him, you're one part of several parts in his life. As long as you make some contact in the course of the day, everything's cool to him, so don't try to make every day some overblown romance fest. Just play it cool, go easy, let things develop on their own. Don't put all that romantic pressure on your guy. Be yourself. Be a cool person in your own life and connect with him for a bit, but don't suffocate him with attention nor demands. If you're good friends first, you will be comfortable with each other and good lovers. Girls are generally so deep about love that they develop defense mechanisms to protect themselves should the love not go their way. Examine yourself to see if that's you. The best lovers are spontaneous people who aren't afraid of revealing their true souls to their lovers without hang-ups. Every time you get hurt, you could develop more negative baggage about love. You put walls between you and your potential for love. Many women are schizophrenic like this. They want love, but they're afraid that if they open up to a guy, he will leave them just like the last four did, so they play it wishy-washy, safe at half volume, don't open up fully, then the guy gets tired of the lame bitch and leaves. You have to wash it all away and stay pure, open, and innocent if you want the real thing. You can't assume that love sucks or all men suck just because you've been in 5 stinky relationships. There's good and bad on both sides. You have to keep trying and don't set your sights so high. Try for an easygoing love, not a deep, psycho-bamboozled love. Don't make the guy responsible to please you romantically. Take initiative to create the love affair. Help him along. Don't just sit there like a log and expect him to please you and worship you. In a nutshell, be a strong, beautiful person within yourself. Try to be an open and giving lover. Don't let anything destroy your ability to be a great lover, including your baggage from your past and the walls around your heart. Be spontaneous and just do what feels right in your soul. Chapter 2. A man tells the truth about love too. Man's sex drive. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking up at the stars. Oscar Wilde. Way down deep, Every man is a dirty dog. Ex-boxing champ. Fuck for fuck's sake. Don't sugarcoat it too much with psychobabble and new age sensuality. That feeling is worth everything in the world. Men will kill for it, die for it, sacrifice their pride and paychecks for it, to shove their dicks into a woman's twat and pound away until that feeling comes. Howdy horny. Chick magnet. Caption on t-shirt of dorky looking guy. All men are ruled by their genitals. Goddess on TV show, It's a Mad World. Love was invented to make lust respectable. Man doesn't need emotional connections or romantic love like a woman does. Men don't get lonely like women do, but the orgasm is king. This is the soul of primal man. Men sometimes feel that their penis controls them, leads them astray, causes them to beg favors at night from women whose names they prefer to forget in the morning. Whether insatiable or insecure, it demands constant proof of its potency, introducing into a man's life unwanted complications and frequent rejection. Sensitive but resilient, equally available during the day or night with a minimum of coaxing, it has performed purposefully if not always skillfully for an eternity of centuries, endlessly searching, sensing, expanding, probing, penetrating, throbbing, wilting and wanting more. Never concealing its prurient interest, it is man's most honest organ. Gay tellus, thy neighbor's wife. After a debauch, one feels oneself to be more solitary, more abandoned. Baudelaire. A few men fantasize about slow gentle sex with a woman they love. Mostly though, the sex they see in porn movies is the sex men really want but daren't ask for. Hot, adventurous, and jumbo filthy dirty. Grub Smith, Minx Magazine, April, 1998. Love in young men, for the most part, is not love at all but simply sexual desire, and its accomplishment is the end. Cervantes. What guy really wants to waste time catering to emotionally needy girls? Quite simply, guys are born to get all they can, but society comes in and tames most of them, at least out in public. All men want sexy-looking trailer trash sluts who like to catch a buzz then have sex any way the guy wants, and after it's over, he wants her to leave him alone for a while so he can live his life hassle-free without the burden of pretending to love her. Most men act dumb like they're unsophisticated about sex even to their girlfriends and wives, but they're secretly all sluts in the privacy of their minds, as described by Pulitzer Prize winner Richard Rhodes in his book Making Love, An Erotic Odyssey, 1992. His honesty in trying to describe his true inner thoughts about sex is admirable because we all live in a fake superficial world where we never express our true primal depraved feelings to others even when we're talking about sex in a supposedly liberated way. I contend that all men are at the very least typical sex-crazed sluts, at least in the privacy of their own minds, just like Mr. Rhodes describes his own forays into the realm of sex as a pretty typical guy who wants sex and needs to explore it. I've been in the military, college, worked on a concrete crew, worked in bars and hung around gyms, always surrounded by men, so one thing I know is man's true nature. At the age of 17 in a military academy, the biggest hobby was going to the local strip joint and to the larger city a few miles away to see XXX films. That was before video, so that was all that was available. It's the same everywhere with men no matter where you go. Saddam and Boris have got a few XXX videos hidden somewhere to watch in private. Your neighborhood reverend is no different than you sexually. He's got to get it out one way or another. When I bought my first VCR in 1980, back when they were $600, all the neighborhood dudes used to come over to watch pornos. They'd smoke dope and drink beer as a cover, then watch a stupid action movie, but the real deal was the skin flicks. As a Canadian in the US, I once lived in an international student center, which was a housing complex for students from all over the world. The deal was the same there. Smoke dope, drink beer, and watch pornos. I met guys from Holland, Brazil, India, Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand, Iran, etc. Men are the same everywhere. Give them a case of beer, some dope, and a porno and they're happy. There was even one guy, an innocent-looking guy fresh from mainland China who was so into porn that he used to do my menial tasks like laundry and wash my car in exchange for the VCR and a porno tape for a few nights for a private viewing in his room by himself. They're doing the same thing in Russia now, as I saw on a documentary, a room full of them watching pornos, trying to act all innocent. Men are helplessly hooked on sex from 14 till death do them part. It's about lust every time, a straight release of that wild urge inside. That wild urge is a biological imperative aroused by the softness of a woman and seeks for that moment in time to do it, to dominate her vagina, to smash it in as hard and fast as possible. The reward is the intense feeling which ensures the proliferation of the species. When man is engaged in sex, he's looking at the softness and sex scenes of the woman and thinking about it. In order to heighten this sensation, sex moves into the realm of degradation. When a man gets into the frenzy of the thrust, he must feel the sexiness and softness of her to get off, so that's where sex is, his biological need for the thrust mixed in with her vulnerability, softness, and sexiness, so it's a primal cave urge to come all over her female essence. That's sex, straight and bare. Some girls like guys to do manly things to them. For two sex spots to find each other and do it real sexy like is every man's dream. To do it while euphoric on mind-altering substances is often infinite smally more intensely pleasurable, which is why the drug trade will never go out of business. For a girl to do all manner of sexual things to a guy and let him have his way gets the man off even more. Based on an article I read in an adult movie review magazine, the main point was that the more degrading, the more arousing. It's wired into guys to crave demeaning sex. It doesn't necessarily make them bad people or anti-women, it's just the nature of man to view woman as a sex object in the privacy of his mind when he's trying to get off. The more sexual, sultry, slutty, and demeaning, the more aroused he gets, which is why men are so aroused by girls who dress vampy. It makes them fantasize about doing it to them real depraved like, and the girls loving it. There's nothing bad about man's sex drive, it's the true nature of the beast. All men masturbate unless they're impotent or stupid. As the woman in the house, don't let it bother you. It's just a harmless release of sexual tension. If your guy has his own office, rec room, or workshop in the home, don't pounce in unannounced. It may be his haven where he gets to play with himself in peace. Always knock before you enter any room that he's in alone, in even the bedroom or the bathroom. It's nothing personal against you. He will still have sex with you, but many men have such a high sex drive that this is what they have to do to deal with it, short of pouncing on you for sex every few hours. Man as a human animal is quite simply wired for sex all the time. If you don't give him sex and space to masturbate in peace or have cyber sex over the internet, he will have to relieve the excess sexual tension somehow, so he may go to prostitutes or have an affair. Men love to look at naked women, be they their wives, strippers, sexy magazines, or videos. I see women on talk shows beat up on men who use the passive part of the sex industry, magazines, videos, strip joints, phone sex, cyber sex, for harmless disposable sex, but this is just the way men are normally. If they don't do this, they will end up sexually unfulfilled, which could make them angry and violent at the wife. All men are sluts in their minds, but most of us are cool enough to keep it there. When I'm with a girl, I treat her as a friend because I respect her enough to know that a decent guy doesn't impose his slutty fantasies on any girl unless she shows him she wants it. I may have great sex with her, but it's according to her boundaries and I don't cross them. I don't ask for kinky things unless she wants to do it. I keep with the straight positions unless she wants to explore further, all the while keeping my private sex life in my mind to myself, except when I give it to her the way she likes it, hard, strong and fast, but it's still not enough for me. Every man in a relationship on the planet has two sex lives, the one with his girl and the one in his mind, which is oodles more slutty and wild. The typical girl can't be expected to service the typical guy when he wants sex, because it's often way more than 3 times a day. If the typical guy were to have his way with his girl, it'd be wild, slutty sex all the time, but guys know that in the real world, it won't jive, so they keep it cool, hidden in their fantasies. Because the guy is not imposing his true sexual will on you, you should let him have his cyberporn or whatever else it is that he does as long as he comes back to you. The truth is that even though they want to be good lovers, most men are rank amateurs at the romance game, scared to initiate and get too close. You have to help them along. Even though they want love, many men just don't see it as important as making it in life. In that way, they differ from women who generally take love more seriously. It's just the way it is. Men are brought up to bring home the bacon, women are brought up to make it all nice in the home. For men, in the outside world, it's all about career then ego then love/family. In their minds, it's all about sex. Men want sex over love, especially when they're young. Don't trust any guy under 25 until he proves his love in some way over time. Guys under 25 generally just want to learn about sex with as many different women as they can. All men, regardless of age, are sluts in their minds, cheating on you several times a day in their thoughts. If you really want to keep him, you have to satisfy him sexually. All men are sex addicts by virtue of birthright. They need it by virtue of the testosterone coursing through their veins. The average man is like a male lion. He sees a female, moves in to screw her, leaves, then when he sees another female in estrus, gets horny again. Romantic love is a feeling that comes and goes, but the need for sex is always there regardless. Just about any attractive female will do. It's really all about sex for men in the privacy of their minds. Romantic love is reserved for nights when the guy feels lonely, then it's back to getting his rocks off. Romance is simply a fantasy expectation imposed by society in comparison to the true sexual nature of man. I don't think my mind is any more creative than any other man, so I know how I'm undressing all girls I come across and having sex with them even as I'm having a civilized conversation, acting like a harmless nice sap. If you want to see what man's true nature and true sex drive is, see the 2001 gay movie called Circuit, which is a serious movie that tries to portray the lifestyle of young gay men living in a big city, in this case, Los Angeles. It's not a glamorous, hype movie. It tries to show the freedom, decadence, narcissism, hedonism, and self-destruction as honestly as it can. The point is that heterosexual guys think this way too, it's just that the hetero world is not this free. Blood flow to the brain and genitals for a strong sex drive. Out of all the studies ever done on sex drive, the one common thread is that the higher your regular blood flow to the brain and body/genitals, the higher your sex drive. Anything that interferes with blood flow is bad for sex drive, like all the usual things in living a healthy lifestyle. Smoking, obesity, recreational drugs, prescription drugs, sedentary lifestyle, alcohol, junk food, sugar, fat, not enough sleep, stress. Whatever you do to be healthy increases sex drive. Stimulate your mind and body every day. Read my vitality/medical book or go to #611-#613 at the library. Man's biggest mistake in the love game. The biggest mistake men make in the mating game is probably that they think a girl smiling at them means romantic and sexual interest, but it's not necessarily true. She has to smile at you at least several times and initiate some conversation with you before you can be sure she's interested. Even then, a lot of young girls are just playing around, testing their sexuality as young adults. Man's second biggest mistake in the love game is that he treats his woman as the prize to be won, then once he gets her, she's a given, an accepted fact, dogma, part of doctrine, she doesn't rate anymore as a product worthy of consideration. Been there, done that, conquered her, she's mine now, I can get back to being a slob, slaying dragons, making money, or whatever it is that I do in my regular life to keep my macho, fragile ego stable, anything but talk of that lovey-dovey mush stuff. The other one is I love her, she knows it, so I can come home from work and watch TV and everything will be peachy cream. I don't even have to talk to her except for a few minutes when I want sex and have to butter her up. Unfortunately, this is how many men think. After they get her, she becomes the sideshow to their lives. If you want a good love life, put her up there as either number 1 or 2 next to your job, which is important to provide for the family, or if you're an artist, put her right after your soul work. No trivial pursuits should come in between you and your lover like golf or sports on TV. Are men paternalistic? I have no paternal instincts. I think raising children is a thankless job. I don't think I could possibly compete with pop culture entertainment and technical gadgets to raise a child the way I would want him or her to be: level-headed, bohemian, physically vital, pure, and free. There are very few kids nowadays who will grow up like I did as a basic, simple, creatively inspired kid. If I try to shelter a child from the couch potato lifestyle of gadgets and the crap on TV, it's so pervasive that he or she will eventually see it and most likely conform to this meaningless lifestyle, which is why I think life is getting worse instead of better, because many of us have given up whatever might be free, vital, and inspired within ourselves to live the indoctrinated life presented by the mass media. I was a kid in the hippie era. We were freer and more primal than the kids nowadays with their packaged lifestyles in front of a screen. Children en masse are clones of the MTV generation. They think it's cool, but they're a bunch of pacified conformists. That's one of the results of living in an increasingly technological world. Everybody's on the same page. Why put up a profile on MySpace or Facebook rather than living life in the real world, going out and meeting people face to face through mutual interests? They sit around plugged into their computers getting this fake intimacy from people they've never met in real life. They don't understand that happiness comes from what you do from your original, inspired nature. I don't want some child of mine to end up like this. I don't think it's possible to take on the role of noble parent these days. The modern world is going the way of Big Brother in the novel 1984. We don't think we're conformists, but most of us are. If you can't be a free, pure individual living close to your true nature, life goes anywhere from mundane to miserable. That's why I think the world is screwed, and I don't want to waste my time raising kids in this atmosphere. From a practical point of view, kids take a lot of time and money. It's not romantic. It's hard work. Why have a kid if there's a chance you'll get bored of him or her after a few years? Why have a kid if you're an alcoholic or have other deep problems? Why have a kid if you think it helped the relationship stay together? It will just cause more problems. There is a group around called Zero Population who believe that a big part of the ecological problems of planet Earth is that we're having too many kids to support. Chapter 3. Love and Freedom, Can You Have Both? Why Men Get Bored. To me, romantic love is nice and feels good, but it always fades. If I was mature, I'd know that true love has nothing to do with romance. It's an internal feeling you have about someone, and nothing can ever change that. I don't look to anyone beyond me to fulfill myself. My journey of time, otherwise known as my life, is interesting enough, and the fact is that lovers get in the way when they want you to be accountable all the time for everything. I'd like to be deeply bonded to a soulmate, but if she was a soulmate, she'd know that we're there for a few minutes of mutual time together at night, and that's it, because the plain fact is that I don't want to be bothered by anyone for at least several hours every day. I have things I do that are basically honoring my inner standard to keep me feeling loose and free, and that's fine by me. Love can't get me there. Love can only add to what I already feel if and when I meet her, somebody cool enough to let me be me without getting all psycho-bamboozled out about it. Love to me is not necessarily romance or even spending a lot of time together. It's an instantaneous feeling I have about someone based on the beauty of their souls, and it stays inside of me until proven otherwise. If I was in love with someone, she should know it's inside of me and not bother me for trivial romantic moments or stupid conversation. I'm there in spirit, and I will be there when the poop hits the fan, but don't expect me to do stupid things to try to capture some stupid romantic moment. It's something you gotta have within you on both sides. Men get bored because they need constant stimulation and tend to tire of things very quickly, even lovers. I can fall in love with somebody, but at some point, being the restless soul that I am, I may get bored, somehow feel that the grass is greener because I see all those sexy babes everywhere and wonder if I should move on, footloose and fancy-free, getting some real action. If I really loved her, my attraction to her would supersede all this, but I rarely come across girls that I feel this powerful about. Not that I'm a great prize or anything, but this is me trying to be honest about love. I don't hurt anyone's feelings, which is why I won't play a girl that wants love by pretending to love her. By contemplating my own life, I've come to feel that a family and baby feels nice for 10 minutes, but in my deepest soul, I feel like the male lion in the woods. He does what he wants when he wants, unbothered by anybody. If he wants food, he eats. If he wants live sex, he finds any willing female, he will pay for it too. If he wants to sleep, he does it without worrying about domestic bliss. I may decide to try monogamous love later on because I might feel I want to leave a few kids around, but right now, I live totally for experience, intellectual, sensual, emotional, and a general journey of the mind, a journey of life which is all I care about, to experience and explore my life unhassled by a wife and a kids. Men need an alluring woman, or preferably a harem of alluring women. Most women get their man, get married, have a few kids, get fat, get boring and watch TV. Men can't handle this, especially after they see all the sexy babes out there in the world and on TV. You owe it to him to take care of yourself, for yourself and for him. Reasonable looking older men can get younger women, older women generally can't get younger men. I'm warning all you ladies out there that fat, sweats and frumpy don't cut it for men in the alluring department. If you don't want your man to get bored, stay young and fresh. Some men want a lifetime run, others are ready after playing the field for a while, but we have to accept the fact that every relationship goes through a boredom period where you have to realize that day-to-day life is as good as it gets. It's not necessarily as sexy as some sexy TV show. Being single's a drag, being married's a drag too, but many men accept a lukewarm marriage over being alone even though they're bored silly. It's a tough gig. Can you be that wonderful to be all things to one man? You have to be a chameleon and a lady. One particular girl I knew had a real sense of herself and a sense of style. She'd dress up nice and had a kind, wholesome way about her. You gotta be like this if you want your guy wrapped around your finger. But I was young and wild, as I will explain later. Can you be that loving that you accept your girl during the mundane times, like when she gets pregnant and boring? These are things that men have to deal with and resolve in order to make a decision about wanting true love. True love is love during the routine times as well as during the exciting, sexy times. If you're a girl with a guy who plays wishy-washy, don't waste your time. Once wishy-washy, always wishy-washy. Cut your losses. Leave him. For the men, you need to find a woman who lets you be yourself and lets you go off for large chunks of time being by yourself without hassling you about it. For women, you have to accept that guys need to be free. They need large chunks of time to be by themselves, away from you, to center themselves, do useless things with their friends, jerk off in private, or otherwise be by themselves to get some perspective about their lives. They're not necessarily cheating, they're just being themselves. In order for a relationship to work, each side has got to have space to be by themselves so it doesn't go overboard into antagonism and the grass is greener syndrome. Very few people are that wonderful that somebody loves their exciting selves all the time. The only solution I can offer is that you gotta try to be exciting, beautiful and loving as much as you can. Conquest and abandonment. The following information I'm about to convey is not universal. These are just some of my basic thoughts about the silent culture of men and women, particularly young men and women. There are some good young men out there who really want true love, but the nature of the beast, at least for a while, is to experience life and see what's out there, forget about all this lovey-dovey, serious girl stuff. The words to a heavy metal song go: meet them, screw them, leave them, forget them. Many young men are charmers and live by this theme. Men live in a world of silent ego competition made up of who's got the most money, best job, who's the best looking, who drives the best car, and who's got the prettiest girl. Our culture has made us like this, little islands each in our own little worlds, carrying our own crosses, not breathing a word about them to anyone lest it betray sissified weakness on our part while we all hatch our great plans to get rich and escape this mundane life in our minds, but most of us never will. We just keep going to work, stuck in our ruts trying to make life more bearable by either drinking booze, chasing women, riding fast cars, jumping out of airplanes, watching sports on TV, or buying useless things. Many of the guys who get rich money-wise usually have something else missing which keeps them eternally frustrated, and that is to know themselves enough to do whatever it takes to keep themselves inspired and vital day by day. This attitude continues on in the game of love. I believe most men eventually want love, but they don't want it right away in their 20s. They realize that women want love right away when they hit maturity, so they know they have to play a game and pretend to love the girl to get what they want out of the deal: experience with girls, sowing their wild oats, learning about sex. I discuss my story of love during my 20s in a later section, which was a combination of curiosity about sex, need for freedom, and simply my fear of life. Even though I fell in love, I was afraid to commit because I was afraid of life, afraid of going out into the world and making it on my own. I didn't want some girl to be there with me during my struggles and possibly watch me fail, so I was afraid to get too deep, not realizing that true love is someone who accepts you for who you are, come hell or high water, as long as you keep trying. As I got older, I realized I had been brainwashed by the monogamy ritual as the path to happiness by my society, so as I approached enlightenment, I realized that I don't need it in order to feel fulfilled, even though most people follow this path at one point or another, but that's beside the point. A certain element of the male population is straight out not interested in love and marriage, even though they might pretend to be. As I discuss elsewhere, there are good casual sex guys who don't try to fool anyone, just state they're out for a good time, and there are bad guys who play girls with every dirty trick in the book in order to get sex out of them. These sexual predators are often young, working class or lower class guys living in a macho culture where it's cool to impregnate women, leave them, then go around bragging about their sexual exploits. Middle and upper class guys do this too, but they're often more subtle than low class guys and have some pangs of conscience to them. All young men are curious, so if they come across someone they don't love, they will go for it for the sex anyway. Some young men are serious and want to fall in love, but the pressure of life stops them from doing so. Still others don't want a thinking human being, they want a pretty face, a good set of knockers, a nice butt, and the list goes on. Because we're trained to be competitive, the love game is just another game of conquest where we get them, screw them, then leave them for the next alluring, pretty one. I've seen a lot of guys develop the fine art of charming a girl both for ego gratification and to get sex, then trade her in for the latest model. This upgrading phenomena is simply part of the consumeristic world we live in, and women are just another commodity. For a man in a man's world, the girl is a notch, toy, and a trophy. That's all she is, an accoutrement like a nice car. Nice cars get old and you trade them in for newer, better models. They get bored of them, or if there's just one flaw, they rationalize it and move on, leaving a bevy of broken hearts in their wakes. The prettier the girl, the more of a trophy she is. The ultimate trophy is many beautiful girls, one after the other. It's sad but true. In our macho zeal to live for ego and control, we've created an environment that's basically hostile to women. Many men define themselves by each other, not by what girls think of them. They seek approval from other men, and the best way to do that is to make lots of money, get the pretty girl and parade her around to show their peers that they're great hunters and make them jealous. This makes you a man's man in the eyes of all other men. Watch some of our so-called aging celebrities. Do you think the Don of the TP Plaza fame would have a chance with any decent girl if he didn't have the money? One of his ex-wives called him a boring dud who only loves himself. That's a real compliment. Young men have been doing this in epidemic proportions, leaving a body count of many wounded girls who are all torn up inside, feel abandoned, and have learned to distrust and hate men. Middle-aged men do it in droves too. They get their midlife crisis, get rid of the wife who raised their kids, now looks dumpy and worn out, and find a pretty, fresh young thing. Young men want sex and adventure, young women want love with one guy, and the two rarely meet and fall in love simply because the timing's off. Men should make it a point to wait until they sow their wild oats to look for the steady love of their lives, while women should realize right off the bat that most young men just ain't serious and steady even though they might talk like they are. Subsequently, many young women in droves who've been wounded by young guys learn to bypass anyone under 30 and seek out older, more mature guys. Many young men are users, it's that simple. They use and throw away. Whether it's because they're really empty inside and feel they have to fuel their egos by chasing girls, manipulating them, screwing them and leaving them, or whether they just want to get as much as they can is irrelevant. The point is that many young men don't want love, but they can pretend to want it and string a girl along in order to serve their own selfish ends. It's only when men get some experience in life under their belts, spend some time alone, reflect on their pasts, how they hurt the girls that loved them and how they cherished a special relationship with a certain one that was doomed from the start because they were too young and wild at the time, do they realize that they really want a special love with one girl. In my opinion, this doesn't happen before the age of about 30, if not later. Ask any girl who's dated a lot of guys. She will tell you guys in their 20s are a bunch of macho idiots more interested in trying to be cool or playing with their macho toys than in falling in love with anyone. Another factor is vengeance/revenge. Suppose you're a guy who was rejected by several girls, or the ugly duckling girl who grew up to be beautiful. Now, whether you realize it or not, you go out to get your rocks off by dating people, leading them on, then cutting them off, in effect punishing them for all the earlier injustices that were done to you by members of the opposite sex in the mating scene. It's very easy to do. Beware of it if you've ever been rejected in the game of love. In the end, is it any wonder why so many women don't trust men and even fear them? Most single women past the age of 25 have been wounded by at least one guy who stole their hearts, then left it in pieces for them to pick up and start all over again. Many women have abandonment issues, desperately afraid of a guy leaving them. They've been hurt before and don't want to live through that again, so they put walls up and start to see all guys as dogs, or they will do anything to stay in a relationship regardless of how bad it is. There is no solution to these classic dilemmas, the cavalier guy and the heartbroken girl. They will continue to repeat themselves over and over again as people grow up and want to learn about what's out there. The only solution is self-acceptance, to reflect on your past, figure it out, decide on what you want and go for it. Men should learn to be remorseful and apologize for any girls they toyed with, even if only in their minds. Girls should forgive the guys who put them through hell, even if only in their minds. Then they should forget them and go out and give a decent guy a chance, someone who's probably hitting 30 years old or more. Relationships with people. We were born alone, we live alone in our heads, known to none but ourselves. This is a concept called existential loneliness. It's normal and human to seek out emotional connections and comfort from kindred spirits, soulmates, family, friends, acquaintances, strangers, and pets, but you're still alone. You will always be alone, stuck in your head, known to none but you. You will never fit like a second skin with anybody else. You will connect here and there, but you will never reveal your true soul to anyone, since we are all primal and self-centered in our natures, so there's a lot of sexual and violent angst inside each of us, even in the seemingly most meek and innocent among us. We can't help it. It's just nature. We can control it, but human nature is territorial, and if this territory is violated, all of us get angry even though we cover it over. The question is, to what extent does your need or desire for intimate connections make you willing, either consciously or unconsciously, to sacrifice some or all of your true identity for? Most people are so starved for affection, friendship, and recognition from others that in order to get some, they will often sacrifice most of their identity for it by not exploring it or living by it. And the sad, ironic part of this is that most of us will not get the intimacy we really want. We surround ourselves with lukewarm people who we have pseudo-intimate connections with. These connections are not full-fledged, deep, intimate, soul-touching relationships. They're mostly average and mundane. They give you transient comfort but don't really solve your problem of existential loneliness. You're still lonely inside, or at least alone if not lonely. You still don't feel connected to any one other person deeply in the mythical soulmate, kindred spirit sense, or to humanity as a whole. The way I deal with my existential loneliness is that I know I'm connected to the best and the most enlightened and freest that humanity has produced so far by trying to manifest my human spirit as intensely, purely, and greatly as I can to make my ride of the human experience a great run while it lasts, and I do this by honoring my inner standard through the conscious release of my natural inspired energy intensely every single day of my life. By living like this, in my mind, it makes me know that I walk with the spirit of the most original, inspired human spirits that ever walked the earth. What more can I do to honor the divine spark within me created by my divine creator? Nothing. I'm a kindred spirit to all who have ever lived by their free spirits greatly or tried for a great life with what they had available to them in their environment, which in some cases is pretty sparse. Together, we are the archetype of the highest order of the human seed. Every day while I'm going through the paces of my life, I feel that I'm connected to all the great spirits before me who lived as I do, trying to expend our human spirits as greatly and aesthetically as we can and could. I'm doing the best I can for the spirit of life that lives inside of me. By honoring this spirit, I'm the archetype of what's good to great about humanity. People like me are into the process of living our lives without pretense, without bull, without bragging, or without buying into all that crap out there that just about everybody in Western society has been indoctrinated by. I can't feel lonely or weak because my life is simply just an ongoing spiritual aesthetic carnal loving experience honoring who I am, which is tapped into the larger spirit of humanity, which to me is the nature of the universe. I'm always tapped into the source from whence I came. I'm true to it. I feel connected to the spirit of life in the universe. I am what I am and live it. I'm here to make the best of my ride of the human spirit. I know that weakness or loneliness is for timid, generic, mundane lonely hearts, so I can't feel weak or lonely simply because I accept life as is. We all want love, but unless you've got a good hold of your own identity, you can't really be much of a great lover of other people, because true love only comes when you are a true lover of life from within yourself. Your life itself is all you own, therefore it's your only true wealth, the minutes you live feeling your spiritual, mystical, biological, primal aesthetic essence and releasing it. It's not about the things you own or what other people think of you. It's about the energy you release from within yourself day by day in your attempt to reach transcendence as much as you can. The purpose of life is to reach the limits of your potential as a human being as defined by you and have a hoot doing it. Relationships are easy. Try to love the one you're with. If you can't, at least try to tolerate them. If you can't do this, try to ignore them. If that doesn't work, separate yourself from them. Get out of there. Accept people for who they are. Nobody's perfect. Everybody you're close to will disappoint you at some point in time. It's just the way people operate. Nobody fits like a second skin to your needs and desires. If you love them, you have no choice but to accept their indiscretions within reason, not breathe a word of them or bring it up in their face and move on. Nobody gets a free pass with me. I've had family members treat me with disrespect. I don't need it. Blood ultimately doesn't mean much if someone is disrespecting you. You walk away regardless of whether it's your spouse, mother, children, etc. This is the only way to stay sane in relationships with people. I know all too well how self-centered and territorial we all are despite our upfront pretenses, which I accept as part of the game of human relations, which I discuss at length in this book. But if you can't subordinate that to operate at a straight, honest level with me, then I won't waste my time. If you try to put on airs, play own-upmanship ego games, or disrespect me, I'm gone. I don't waste my time with low-level people regardless of who they think they are. With everybody else, I'll be as honest, loyal, friendly, and warm as you are. Since I'm not very materialistic, I have money to burn, so I'm generous with my friends because I can afford to be, because I don't spend my money on too much else besides mind-altering substances. Most relations with people in general are transient events. There is no stable community of souls out there. Everybody walks alone. Remember that as you live your life. You'll make lots of transient connections with all kinds of people, but it will always be you alone stuck in your head living your solitary ride while they all go off on theirs. For most people, don't kid yourself about a spiritual connection with your spouse and kids either. Even with your close, personal, intimate relationships, which I contend that not too many people get in their lifetimes for a variety of reasons which I talk about in my love book, you are still universes apart in the thoughts and fantasies in the privacy of your mind and the way you want to live your life. There are very few soulmates and kindred spirits out there for any of us. If you find a handful over the course of a lifetime, you're way lucky. Most of us are just too different, self-centered, scared, self-conscious, egotistical, vain, inhibited and territorial to make very good friends or help each other much in the inspired aesthetic spiritual loving sense of gloriously sharing our life's experiences with each other. We can easily be friends in the lower order sense and help each other with things like providing company, mild comfort, food, shelter, sex, material goods, money, manual labor, and minor social conversation, but it's not exactly a grand slam in the intimacy we really crave in our human relationships, but that's a matter I discuss more in depth in my love book. Most people do not live out glorious romantic love lives, and most parents, especially men, do not have deep relationships with their kids. They are superficial. Part of this is due to the design of our modern technocratic, pop culture world where kids are happier plugged into gadgets than being with their parents, but part of it is also our failure as human beings to be loving and show love to people, even to those who we are closest to. We are either too inhibited or too into our own pursuits like work, golf, TV, food, vanity, status, booze, etc. Relationships vs. inspiration. You can't make somebody else happy unless you're happy first. Movie, The Razor's Edge. The first lesson of power is that we are alone. The last lesson of power is that we are all one. Lynn Andrews, The Woman of WYRRD. It's about reaching out to people and having them touch you back. Terry Fox, Runner for Cancer Research. The world tries to channel most of us into being, as they call it, productive citizens, living some one-dimensional, standard work ethic life somewhere full of illusions about the greatness of materialism, pop culture entertainment and Big Brother, which has become us, in effect the mainstream population, who are all brainwashed by what they see on TV, then set about to be its good little conformists, often without realizing it, and by this very action through an insidious, subtle form of peer pressure, everybody acts as everybody else's critic and moderator, trying to keep each other playing by Big Brother's rules simply because it's human nature to be sheeple and be fearful, hateful, and or jealous of people who don't want to play the game and do their own thing. It's cool to pretend to be an individual, but underneath our cosmetic choices of career, all jobs are dull, religious denomination, cell phone company, brand of running shoe and choice of vacation tour, most of us are generic consumers living by society's formula for happiness and success, not our own true, free ideas about what it means to live a good life. If you're true to your soul, you'll be a free spirit till death do you part. How many people can honestly say that about themselves? The real deal is that the average person is tied up in determining their self-value or lack of it based on their relationships with other people, and often how they perceive these other people perceive them, which is horrible because you're basing your self-worth on the opinions of other human beings who mostly have pop culture, capitalist minds, and all have the potential to be fallible, weak, manipulative and hurtful for their own benefit. All these things could break you down if you rely on them for a lifeline. My belief is that I have my soul, which is me. I know what it is. The game is to hold on to the higher, noble reaches of my soul as well as enjoy the carnal, lusty sides concurrently, both at the same time. If I honor these two dimensions of my soul by consciously knowing I have to release X amount of my positive, inspired and lusty energy day by day, I feel good, loose and free. This has nothing to do with my relationships with other people. It's just me living by my own standard. It takes up the bulk of my life. Beyond this, we're all on the seesaw of life, the mystery of being human. We all want love, tenderness, and compassion, to give some and get it back, but at the same time we don't want to be smothered or owned. This is the big game or imperfection most people play out or have. They are damned if they do, damned if they don't. They are damned if they fall in love with someone and give them their heart because it will take away from their freedom and identity. The big paradox of the human condition is that we all get lonely and want a mythical soulmate to love and be loved, but at the same time we want to do our own thing hassle-free, and we want to fulfill our carnal pleasures, which often go beyond our monogamous partner, even if by yourself watching pornos. If you want to be free and bohemian, being alone is a drag after a while, even if you socialize and party a lot. It's not like being in a deep relationship with someone. Being human, we all have these needs for love regardless of whether we will admit or not. A lot of people can't make it with other people because they're so messed up or so individual, so they turn to pets to get their dose of love and comfort, or for some, it becomes a pseudo-intimate thing, like the clerk at the store who gets his pseudo-intimacy by talking to his regular customers, or the entertainer who gets his fix out of entertaining people. The bottom line is that most of us want it all. To know what it takes to be inspired forever. To have the freedom to live out. To have a loving person or several with you there all the way as you pursue your destiny. The problem is that life is not so clear-cut. Most of us live half-assed lives. We're not really inspired. We live mundane lives going through a routine. We're not really in love. Our relationships are relationships of convenience or necessity. I rely on the sure thing, control over myself. I can stay inspired most of the time through my own efforts. I can count on pets for intimacy. I need love too, but that brings up another issue, my hedonistic streak, my love of recreational substances and varied sexual experiences. I can't see me ever being in a monogamous relationship until aging slows me down enough such that I don't have this constant mania about trying to suck all the varied experiences I want out of my life. I still get lonely for love, but in my life so far I've met about 5 girls as free and varied as me. They wanted me to settle down, but I just couldn't do it. I'm talking about the type of girl I would go for a swim with. I could sit down and talk to her for an hour about bullshit intellectual topics just to talk for entertainment, then do cocaine with and make love. That's cool in my opinion, but the average girl in today's society, even the seemingly cool ones, don't want to do recreational substances. How much more honest do I have to be? We all get lonely from time to time because the structure of our society holds monogamous love up as the elixir of life, but I'm pretty happy going on with an endless stream of experience and inspiration day after day. Find me a soulmate and I might go for her, but I don't come across too many girls that I feel are really cool and strong enough to have their own identities. I was bohemian and creative ever since I can remember. I was a bit more multicolored, adventurous, and determined to do what I felt than everybody around me. I like pretty, bohemian chicks, the artists and creative types. I can't relate to all the generic career chicks out there with their dull lives thinking they got something because they got a standard yuppie job. Once you get past the pretense, most are pop culture clones. I accept them as is in the moment because this is the way most people are, but as far as true admiration and love goes, I just don't come across very many girls that I think are really cool people within themselves, away from the crap and pretense of the world. There are plenty of fun girls around for transient good times, girls who like to catch a buzz and have some fun for a while without any serious agenda involved, but I can't talk to them and feel that they're spiritually like me. That's one thing, but a loving, monogamous relationship is something else altogether. I want love just like anyone, but I realize I'm stuck alone in my head just like every other human being, so I accept it and live a great life with what I got without looking for someone to change my life, as the old Moody Blues song said. I still have hope though. I met a girl briefly at an electronics show who filled me with this inspiration I had for a soulmate equal back in my 20s, but she was married though, but still, it told me there are those types of girls out there that turn me on, even though they're rare. If I'm given love and getting it back, I'll use that as one of my sources of inspiration to keep me high for that particular period of time, but I don't let anything interfere with my relationship to my inner standard. This is what makes a guy like me different from the average person. The average person probably ties most of their energy into work, school, relationships, and pop culture entertainment. They let their moods get affected by how others are treating them, how close or far apart they are in the intimate spiritual sense, how much they fight, how much attention they pay to one another or ignore each other, etc. While a guy like me doesn't want to deal with all this complicated baggage that average people typically live by. If I'm feeling inspired about my life, I feel good, I want good vibes around me, I'll treat whoever I'm with good and expect good behavior back without tension or deep, phony psychobabble games. As long as I get my release of inner potential energy out of the way for the day, I'm a loose, friendly person, but I pretty well refuse to get bogged down in these little trivial melodramas I see most people around me playing out with each other. I've been there, done that. It's not worth it to me. Just about everybody you live with starts to get into these little melodrama guilt manipulation games after a while, which is why I'm more cut out for casual relationships than deep, dependent ones. If it ever comes to pass that I fall in love with one girl who I think has the free-spirited, down-to-earth vibe I would be interested in and decide to have children with her, that will become part of my soul and inspiration, and I will dedicate a lot of my natural potential energy to that as a soulful pursuit, just like I focus on my other soulful pursuits now. But I rarely come across anyone who has not been damaged by pop culture and capitalism enough for me to want to get romantically involved with them in any semblance of a serious way. True love is not in the cards for a lot of people. They can't find anybody real enough to relate to without all that pop culture, capitalist stuff getting in the way. Fake love, lukewarm love, or love based on other than pure motives are plentiful in the modern world, but true, pure soulmate love is not, mainly because most people don't live by their souls. They live by some pop culture, capitalist ideal they borrowed from the systematic way of doing things put forth by the establishment that has a vested interest in producing obedient, worker, consumer clones thinking they're doing all right because they're living large, like an image in a cheesy ad out of the pages of some frivolous magazine. We truly live in a brainwashed society where the propaganda machine has done such a good job of brainwashing people that most of them don't realize how brainwashed they are, living by the delusion that they're successful, happy, free, and enlightened, which is why it's so rare to find pure souls able to be who they really are, the way they were born, away from all that indoctrinating stuff out there which just pollutes them from my point of view. Anyway, the message is clear. If people focused more on staying inspired about their own lives by living by the standard within themselves, they would have less angst and neuroses about their relationships with people. They would feel pretty good most of the time, so they wouldn't want or have to deal with the melodramas in your typical relationship. Overall, they would be happier people with more straight, direct, uncomplicated relationships than most of the population has now, which is the way it looks to me from where I stand. All I see is people living in little melodramas with one another, constantly going around a love-like animosity-hate circle of actions and emotions with each other without having a clue about any soul/essence they might have inside of themselves, which they feel they should somehow honor in order to feel good about their lives away from their relationships with other people. If people simply focused on honoring what they felt within themselves that was good, positive, divine, and inspired, they would be a lot more happier, and relationships would be a lot simpler and better, because they wouldn't have the time nor the inclination to play their tit-for-tat psychobabble ego games with their so-called loved ones. Rather, they would do whatever it is that makes them feel inspired. Then after the release of this energy, they would feel good, so they would want some easygoing, pleasant time with their loved ones rather than getting all bogged down in the mind games I sometimes call conditional love, everybody thinking, "What have you done for me lately?" living by some invisible scorecard in their heads about equitable reciprocity of emotion, effort, and love. That's one of the reasons I'm a free spirit. I don't want these regular, clingy, needy, mundane relationships in the real world. It's like that song from the 80s, "Don't wanna live in the real world." Too many lonely hearts in the real world. Families, happy times or pain in the butt? I've known more men destroyed by marriage and family than I've seen destroyed by booze and sex. Clever Amos. I'm wise enough to know I have no paternal desire or patience to raise children at this point in time, so I feel that I'm doing the right thing as opposed to some of my conventional contemporaries who weren't really cut out to be parents and had no idea why they had children beyond the cultural indoctrination part. What I see is a lot of guys and some girls out there following the package deal of life while neglecting their true natures. They have kids because it's the culturally expected thing to do, then go off and destroy themselves in the workforce trying to reach some illusory level of success, or just trying to pay all their bills, all the while ignoring their children as they grow up, kinda like that 70s song by Harry Chapin, Cats in the Cradle, where the father was always too busy to play with his son, so the son grew up to be like him and became too busy for his dad. To me, all this stuff amounts to a lost soul and a stressed out, wasted life because of cultural brainwash manipulating people to be something they're really not at the core of their souls. I do what I feel is right at any given moment. As I age, I may get sentimental and feel I want to settle down and raise a family because it looks as though aging could be a drag without a family, but maybe that's just a delusion on my part. I will see when I get there, but right now, I still feel the same way I did as a teenager, except that I've matured enough to have seen all sides of human nature, so I'm not some naive kid anymore seeing the world through rose-colored glasses, but that's another story. Don't have kids by rote because of some societal illusion, because if you don't really like the process, they will destroy your life quick enough, then you will quietly curse them for ever being born. Anthropologists tell us that a woman is inherently wired to nurture children, and the release of a certain few select hormones after birth cements this bond and desire to love and raise the child. However, based on what I've seen on nature shows, men in the past were hunters living in packs, and the women had to persuade them to hang around to raise the kids, which is why I question whether paternalism, a man's desire to raise kids, is inherently biological or the result of social indoctrination. One of the biggest lies of society is the implicit suggestion that marriage and family will fulfill you and give you love. In many cases, marriage and family are an impediment to the real you. People get married because the culture pushes them into it, expecting fireworks and fulfillment, then have children expecting more fireworks and fulfillment, but if you're not fulfilled within to start out with, nothing outside of yourself will do it, and a family will just exasperate your sense of inner emptiness. But this is the game that society thrusts on us to control us and make us good, little, conformist, obedient worker plebeians hooked on career success, materialism, and domestic bliss. Settle down because it's supposedly the right thing to do, then 5 years later, you're stuck with a job you hate, a house full of kids, a fat smelly spouse, bills, still miserable inside, and don't even realize that it's all caused by an empty soul, because you didn't take the time to fully explore your life first. But the thing is, you're faking it on the outside, acting all happy and cheery because you can't admit to yourself that you're stuck in a deep rut that you created for yourself. I tried to understand why most of my friends got married and had kids starting at about the age of 23, when I still felt like a naive teenager back then. Sure, we all get lonely and want somebody to fill it up, but they were all having kids, and when I asked them why, they couldn't give me a straight answer. They hadn't really thought about it much. It was just the natural progression of a brainwashed life: get married and have kids as soon as possible after your 23rd birthday. They thought kids would fulfill them and make them whole, but they can't. There's still that hole of you by yourself wanting to live out your purpose and destiny. It was societal brainwash, and now they don't seem happy to me. Children didn't fulfill them, they just made their lives more difficult, or at least that's my cynical perception of it, because most families I see around seem to have tension in them somewhere, usually a cynical father who just wants to watch TV in peace after his job. Most people have kids because it's the logical brainwash social ritual progression of life: school, job, marriage, kids, but many don't do it for the right reason, a genuine desire to raise noble beings out of love. A few people say their kids inspire them, but for most, they're a pain in the butt a long way away from the warm, fuzzy cute feelings at the time of birth and babyhood. I tried kids for a while as a pseudo-stepfather, but I found I needed the time for my own life. They were good kids, but I was too obsessed with my own life to make a good father. At least, I'm being honest about it. How many men have their own biological children and feel like this? You will never own your children. They will get smart then go their own way, deviating from your plan for them. Don't have kids unless you're ready to pay the price by losing your dignity to raise them, paying out lots of money for their material needs and giving them a lot of your free time. A responsible person wants to nurture his or her children. Be ready with the money and time to spend on them. Sure, you can pretend to be a happy family person, but it takes hard work on top of working a job to pay the bills. So most of my peers with a few kids are half dead and stuck, working every day then going home to be with the kids in a never-ending treadmill with no way to get off because kids never stop needing money and attention. Most adults in general don't really like to spend time with kids, especially after the cuteness thing wears off at a young age. Search your soul to see if you genuinely want to raise children the way they should be raised, doing things with them all the time in order to feel that you're helping mold noble beings. If you don't get that feeling way down deep, then you're not really cut out to be a great parent. It's not inherent in your soul, just like I don't feel it at this point in my life, but there was a time about 20 years ago when I almost ended up in that marriage family trap before I was ready for it, simply because that was the game all around me. Everybody over 23 was married with kids and us younger guys were expected to be marrying soon. You can fake it, but it will just make you miserable and people will see through it. Most parents probably don't even know the name of their kids' teachers. If you don't know their birthdays, best friends, favorite TV shows and middle names, you fail. I met a soulmate type girl at the age of 23, but intuitively knew I couldn't marry her because I knew I would have ended up divorced if I went along with the program. She was beautiful, but I knew I was born to run at least until I was 40, now it looks like 55. My plan was to see the world and pursue a bunch of different experiences, which is what I did, unlike George Bailey in the movie It's a Wonderful Life, who trashed his plans, settled down and had kids, which led to misery, which was solved in the movie, but that's fantasy land. In the real world, the stress never ends. You should take the time to explore your life, then when you reach a point where you've achieved something worthy from within yourself and got some money in the bank, you can relax a bit and try domestic living if that's your bag, but even then, life is still always that game of holding onto your inspired youthful spark. According to statistics, parents typically spend less than 7 minutes a week talking to their kids in a meaningful way, and I've read more cynical statistics that say it's less than 2 minutes. Unless you truly love to raise kids from the core of your soul, they will drain your life force and finances and could drain your marriage. Society doesn't need any more unloved kids. If you don't enjoy the process, it's bad for everyone. Sometimes a free life is better, or just 1 or 2 kids rather than a large family you barely have time for or don't want to bother with, beyond the brainwash role of having kids because it's supposedly the pro-social family thing to do because of all the cute commercials you see on TV with grandmothers with their grandkids. Most people I know are not great parents. They pay the bills, feed their kids and drive them to school, but beyond that, they want to be left alone to watch TV and do their own thing. The responsibility of having children is very great and the sacrifice of freedom very high. Perhaps I will have a few when I get older and move into the September phase of my life, but only if I had the means to do it at my leisure and be able to live my life freely at the same time, which means I won't have them unless I've got enough money in the bank to raise them while not having to work a regular job. Don't have kids unless you're ready to pay the price. Cold, hard reality, not a romantic Waltonish, Brady Bunch fantasy. Chapter 4. The guy or gal who sees themselves as a great artist with a high purpose. The artist vs. Psychobabble. Have the courage to explore what your soul craves. I wrote this book for a couple of reasons. The first is the statement above. I feel that we in the modern world are being sold a phony, soppy, one-dimensional version of how life should be lived through a partnership between what I'll call psychobabble, the so-called official formal academic knowledge regarding wisdom in life, and the self-styled self-help experts of success in a capitalist world, and the commercial media who eat this stuff up because it's filler for them at a cheap price. Get a bunch of phony experts talking about life in general and you got TV content that you can sell advertising space for without expensive production costs. The second reason was purity. I feel that most of us have been brainwashed not only by psychobabble but also by the infrastructure of the pop culture entertainment industry and the capitalist system, which define what is cool and successful for us, and we're supposed to accept it and try to imitate it like good little clones trying to meet the system's version of coolness and success in order to appear cool and successful to other clones, therefore more attractive to them, increasing our chances to find love, get compliments, friends, or get laid, whichever is your current bag. Psychobabble is the perfect excuse for all the weak, generic, soppy people of the world living uninspired, mundane, depressed lives. You put your happiness in the hands of others who will give you some phony steps or strategies to follow, which are all lame and will fail because you are ultimately guided by your soul, your essence as a human being, not by a bunch of discreet one-liners that are staid at best. I control my destiny every single minute of the day. Almost every morning, I run 10 miles. This is not particularly easy at any age, but I muster the will and the inspiration to do it because it's part of my formula to keep me in a state of transcendence above the general mundanity of the human condition, which is to constantly release the natural, inspired energy I feel within myself. This is what really matters, to have the guts, will and the inspiration to give a damn enough about your life to hold onto your inner standard forever if you know it exists, which a lot of people don't. They follow the standards of the outside world and then wonder why, despite all their success out there and all the trendy material stuff they own, they still don't feel sexy, loving, lovable, romantic, or great about their lives. The really soppy people blame their misery on something in their past, then sit back, have a pity party, cry, eat another slab of bacon, smoke another cigarette, work their dull jobs, lay in bed watching TV, and hire some phony expert for what they call therapy. For the psychobablists, it's the perfect sucker business. Convince people that their problem is something buried in their past rather than a conscious act of will and inspiration right now, then suck them into mulling over it for endless therapy sessions. Besides psychobabble, the other big scapegoat is drugs, aka recreational substances. I've been using recreational substances for pleasure and enlightenment since I was 13 years old. It has enhanced my life, yet every weak, soppy person out there who gets arrested or does something stupid blames it on drugs. It's a lie. Blame it on the mug in the mirror. This is why I feel I live in a world of weak, generic people with all kinds of soppy delusions. Instead of getting on with trying to get something out there lives every second they're breathing air, they're living these stupid lives, and the system sanctions it because weak, messed up people are good for business. Who do you think watches the daily TV talk shows rather than actually doing something? Weak, generic people can be easily controlled. They have a lot of doctor visits, consume lots of prescription drugs, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they have lots of material excesses, anxieties, insecurities, and consumer addictions to deal with their pathetic lives. I wrote this book because I want one guy to speak the truth as he sees it, unspoiled by all that crap that's going around out there that can suck you in if you let it, and a lot of people have. Somebody has to stand on the outside looking in, saying you wonder why you live such mundane, pathetic lives with very little romance, strong love, great sex, or an inspired lifestyle in general. If you believe that any so-called life expert or psychologist out there has some wisdom that will change your life, then you're lost. It's very simple for every enlightened person. You either find your true essence as a human being and live by it, or you're just another lost soul looking outside of yourself for answers. I don't claim to be an expert in anything. I think all self-proclaimed, so-called experts in the liberal arts fields are a bunch of phonies, hiding behind some piece of paper they got from the system that sanctions them to be a system clone in something, when the truth is that the enlightened people are the ones who reject the box, think for themselves, and learn whatever inspires them on their own. I'm a guy who had the guts to get away from the system long enough to discover my true identity. Now I'm reporting it as one sane voice in a massive sea of psychobabble and self-help bullshit, telling you what it's really all about, and it's really simple, but many, probably most people just don't seem to get it. They allow themselves to get taken in by the capitalist world agenda. Take a look in the mirror. You get what you deserve. Misery happens when you're not strong enough to follow your true nature. When you let yourself get brainwashed by the world, you will not know freedom, inspiration, love, great sex, or transcendence. You create who you are. 90% of the time there ain't nobody there but you alone with your thoughts in your mind. Your biology is your biography. I can read people with a quick look of the face and the body, and from where I stand, I don't see a whole hell of a lot of joy, love, and inspiration going on out there, and this means I don't sense that very many people are having great love affairs or mind-blowing sex despite what they might claim or the way the media portrays life in general. Stand around in front of a supermarket sometime and watch the people going in and out. Try to get a feel for their vibe, their aura, so to speak. You soon start to realize why we ain't the land of romantics, lovers, and sexual hedonists. It's because we have other gods and idols like food, TV, computer games, materialism, hair color, vanity, gossip tabloids, the game of status, the cult of celebrity, pop culture entertainment, work, golf, stress, religion, etc. In The Politics of Lust, 2003, John Ince basically says the same thing. The media image is a lie. There's supposedly this great spirit of sexual hedonism and romantic love permeating the land, but the thing is it only exists in the media, not in the day-to-day lives of most people. Most of us have negative, repressed attitudes towards sex in the real world, although I contend many of us live rich. Love and sex lives in the privacy of our minds, but in the real world, we live dull, routine lives in general as well as dull, routine love and sex lives. It all comes down to a few things: insecurity about love and sex, general fatigue, workaholism, and laziness in general. I'm sure most of us want more of one, the other, or both, but we stop ourselves from going for it because it's a lot of work. We feel we don't measure up due to cultural brainwash, and there's always a possibility of rejection. I used to wonder why people don't try for great love, great lives, and great sex in general, but I don't anymore. I accept it. It's called the path of least resistance, and it's the most popular way to live as a lifestyle. I wrote this book and my free spirit book to get my thoughts out of my system and release them out into the ether. Beyond that, I don't care. I'm gonna live my life in the pursuit of transcendent experiences every day, and I don't care about the generic people of the world. I won't let them drag me down by watching all that soppy crap on TV that seems like a conspiracy to me to keep people down in mundane, pathetic, psychobabble pits. I try to be as real as I can by living as close to the purity I feel within myself, which is my soul. As I became enlightened over 15 years ago, I wrote a book called A Free Spirit's Search for Enlightenment, discussing how I threw off the indoctrination of my youth to live for what I feel within purely and freely. When I looked at all the love, sex, and romance books out there, I saw that not one came close to the two sides within me, which is the dichotomy in any normal man. We are all Jekyll and Hyde in one, primal and noble beings, no different than the way Robert Louis Stevenson portrayed his infamous character more than 100 years ago. One guy has a mild-mannered, pro-social, pleasant way about him. The other is a sexual hedonist and a self-centered narcissist who goes to back alleys and other seamy spots doing drugs, hanging out with hookers and having fun with any girls who want to catch a buzz and have a good time. All men are like this by virtue of hormones and nature. It's just that in the real world, most of us were raised to respect others, while some of us don't act on our natural tendencies for the less than honorable reasons of avoiding jail and being branded as deviants. Most of us have learned to relegate our lusts to the privacy of our minds, never revealing them to anyone, but this doesn't change the fact that they're there, always lurking in the seething cauldron of the subconscious mind. For most of us, this is repressed to just below the level of conscious reality, coming out here and there when we relax enough to open up our ids a bit. Artists of life live at the level of the subconscious mind all the time. They are free enough to be themselves without shame, guilt, or repression. They don't keep things locked up inside much like normal people do. The conscious mind for the normal guy is a repression machine. It keeps sexual thoughts hidden away. Artists don't have the censor within themselves. They feel it and think it all freely. They see it as their mission to live their lives completely, purely, carnally, and aesthetically. This is why I know who I am in my true nature without letting the world indoctrinate me in any way at all, and why I decided to write about it, because I felt I was one of the few truly honest voices on the planet regarding what's really going on as I see it, and at the same time, I had the curiosity to put together a master, one-stop shopping book with lots of resources about everything in the love, sex, and romance game, because I'm a hedonist and I do these things anyway regardless of whether I'm writing a book about them or not. So I figured since nothing like this existed out there, I would create it and take you along for the ride if you wanna come. Being in the company of men all my life, in the military, in the workplace, on sports teams and at college, living in college dorms, I saw that I wasn't that different from other men. We all house these little fronts of normality or at least social conformity while entertaining our true selves in private, locked away in our solitary minds. I was perceptive enough to recognize those brief moments when people are being honest about themselves. After a while, I came to the conclusion that every man, even the ones with the most pious, respectable fronts, were as depraved as I am in the privacy of my mind. They would let it out when I was drinking with them, talking freely, doing drugs or some other decadent activity like visiting strip joints or looking for booty. At that point in time, in my early to mid-20s, I needed to validate to myself that it just wasn't me going around with all these carnal lusts inside while acting like a normal, sensible conformist on the outside, thinking that I was a deviant and everybody else was as normal as they portrayed themselves to be. Most of us want starry-eyed romance, walking along a beach to a glorious sunset pledging undying love to our mythical soulmate, pure goddess forever, but at the same time, we all house an incredible paradise of lust in the privacy of our minds. Why does nobody ever talk about this? Why do they just gloss over this major part of man's nature and say something superficial like a man has a sexual thought every 3 minutes or is turned on by a woman's look, as opposed to her mind and soul, then leave it that? This is a major conflict with the culturally indoctrinated ideal of monogamous marriage for a lifetime as the key to happiness. Yet why does nobody ever address this? We just assume that in order to be happy, we must be married and have children without questioning it. I figured it would be easy to write the best book ever written on the subject because as the untamed animal and soft-spoken gentleman I am, both at the same time, I can discuss it all without prejudice, just presenting the facts, putting it all in one package for anyone who wants it, all the way from my explorations of my true nature, which is man's primal nature, to how to get married and where to buy diamonds. It's that simple. I'm not like all those phonies out there pretending they know something more profound about the human condition than me because they took some generic courses given by some nerds somewhere then got certified as supposed wise people. By thinking about my life and writing it down, which I do as a part of my nature, constantly exploring it and trying for higher pleasures, I felt I could come up with a kind of next-generation Marquis de Sade Havelock Ellis type of book that goes beyond the regular psychobabble of the day to do a freer, more personal look at the subject. These guys didn't have massive amounts of psychobabble that they could go to and regurgitate like pretty well everybody who writes a love or sex book these days does. They had to create it out of what they felt within themselves. It's not just about depraved stories, it's an educational look at the subject with resources on where to get whatever you want in the field. I am what I am. I meet people like me from time to time in the real world and in cyberspace, but in my day-to-day life, I can't really talk to the people around me about this stuff because it's something you don't do in conversation in polite society. Most people are repressed. They can't even admit to the two biggest recreational activities on the planet, watching porno/reading erotic romance novels or having mental sex in order to pleasure themselves. Besides that, everybody is a liar when it comes to supposed intelligent discussions about sex. People portray themselves as considerably more sensitive, attractive, romantic, loving, and liberated than they actually are, but what do you expect in a world where the media is constantly telling you how casual and easy sex is and how liberated the cool people should be? How do you expect anyone except for the free hedonists to have an honest, intelligent conversation about sex? I don't even try. I just wrote my thoughts down in this book and hope to make enough money off it to buy a decent house on a tropical isle, do cocaine, and rush, post my profile on some casual sex and alternative dating websites and invite pretty, sexy girls to come down, all expenses paid, to catch a buzz and have fun with me. In my experience, nobody is honest in talking about love, sex, and romance, at least not face to face. Over the internet people are more honest and fantasy prone, but everybody has so much tension about it while acting all liberated about it on face. I simply explain who I am, what I feel, do, crave, and fantasize about, often in the third person, and let it go at that. My true nature is a constant lust for euphoric sensations in general. It's a craving for a sense of transcendence through doing inspired aesthetic activities to give me life orgasms, sexual orgasms, and love orgasms, since I'm not too proud to admit that despite my craving for inspired and euphoric experiences day by day, I still get lonely. I know what love is. I've been in love before but never stuck with it, either because I was too untamed or too poor. You can't very well romance someone if you're living in a dive, but I think it's part of the human condition to crave at least one soulmate or more in life, as in the case of people who believe in polyamory. If I were to meet another soulmate, I would fall in love again, but I'm not holding my breath, making it a central tenet of my life. I just live day by day the best that I can. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, I will still die with a recently purged look of satisfaction on my face. As a sexual hedonist, shooting missiles off is a regular part of life for me. Just like working out, they're both a release of natural, inspired energy, a part of my formula to stay young and inspired forever, to try to stay in a zone of eternal youth, one step ahead of the general mundanity of the generic human condition. When I saw the movie Quills for the first time about the Marquis de Sade, I thought that here was finally a guy I could relate to, a kindred spirit, someone who knew who he was, led by the intense feelings within himself. It was what he felt naturally, therefore it was no big deal to him. It was the rest of the world that was screwed up. From a psychobabble point of view, in my opinion, most so-called love and sex experts have three major flaws. 1. Virtually all of them buy into the Freudian lie that there is something in your past holding you back and repressing you, which has to be brought out by some so-called therapist who will make lots of money counseling you for endless sessions. This applies only to weak, brainwashed people. For enlightened people, you create your life every second as you go along. We can't waste our time looking back because it solves nothing. The past means nothing. No matter what happened in your past, it only affects you now if you let it by choosing to live in misery. 2. Virtually all of them buy into the package deal of life presented by the system without questioning it. They accept the so-called science of psychology and self-help as the be-all, end-all to wisdom in life, and accept the lifestyle presented to us through the capitalist, pop culture system, so they all start off with the implicit assumption that this conventional system of knowledge is the authority of what's right and proper, and that's it. 3. Because they're bound by this little box of life they've been educated to believe in, virtually all of them are not free enough to think for themselves and make their own decisions about how life really works in the real world day by day, or what it means to have the wisdom to think away from the system. They do not have the ability that wise people do to contemplate their lives, contemplate their relationships, and watch people in general in order to make conclusions about human behavior from that, and to simply try to be honest about who they are and what they feel as is, pure and free, bound by none. They do these so-called quantitative research studies, which are essentially useless next to an individual trying to analyze life as a case study of one, because that's real and honest, that's how life is lived, by one holistic individual at a time. Group analysis will give you trends, but it can't get to the heart or true motivations behind things. When you reduce human behavior into a questionnaire, a survey, or some experimental study with a control group, you're dealing with generalities which don't really say much. The way I see it is that my ancestors got along fine relying on themselves, thinking their own thoughts. About 50 years ago, the media came onto the scene en masse with an explosion of TV and radio programming, books, magazines, and more recently, the content on the internet has given us access to all kinds of new knowledge, including bloggers who are people describing personal accounts of their own lives. Through it all, I'm asking, where's the lone artist trying to be objective and sane about studying human behavior as a case study of one without being too whimsical and dreamy like most bloggers are, or too clinical and dry as most psychobablists are? Bloggers are too subjective and scattered all over the place. Psychobablists are too general and don't penetrate the human soul. I'm not saying it's all bad. There's some good stuff there, but somewhere along the way we have given control of our lives and the wisdom within ourselves to the commercial, pop culture forces and liberal arts academic disciplines out there, accepting whatever they tell us without questioning it much, whereas I say it's a bunch of manufactured crap geared to impose some kind of control over people who buy into it and make money off them. The individual is the greatest indivisible force in humanity. He or she houses the greatest wisdom humanity as a whole can have. It can't be achieved by system clones, each adding some minor one-liners or a theory to the pie of the world's collective knowledge in the humanities and social science fields. While all these ideas could be mildly inspirational and food for thought, they still don't address the heart of the human condition. Enlightenment in life and love is a holistic thing, like an on and off switch. You either understand the essence of life and love or you don't. This is why I don't buy into all that discrete knowledge in just about every liberal arts type book out there. They don't get to the human soul, which is the individual divided by one. Within the human soul, there is an objective, universal standard of the true nature of life which everybody has imprinted in them when they are born, but in order to manifest it, they have to have the guts to take the journey to experience life both out in the world and within themselves, then contemplate it all together in order to find the standard without getting indoctrinated by the world system along the way. This is really tough to do. Over the course of their lifetimes, I would venture to say that very few people get to know who they really are away from the system's indoctrinating dogma. Basically, what the standard is about is that you figure out who you are in your essence as a human being, which is the divine blueprint for life you were born with, the same consciousness you had as a kid, the same consciousness you have now hidden beneath that fake exterior and the noise from the outside world, and the same consciousness you will have as an old person. This is you. The key to life is to figure out how to stay inspired all the time. You do this by knowing what your essence is, then formulate a standard within yourself of what you must do day by day to honor this essence by releasing X amount of natural inspired energy in several activities that are your lifeblood, that send you into a zone of freedom, euphoria, and transcendence when you do them to an intense level. This is the true nature of how inspired, enlightened people live. This is the only way to truly live a great, glorious life as far as I'm concerned. Everything else is psychobabble, phony knowledge masquerading as wisdom, and a lot of naive people fall for it. To my way of thinking, an artist has to seek the truth no matter how beautiful, ugly, crude, or embarrassing it looks. He probes his own life, thinks he has something original that nobody has talked about publicly before, even though other people may have thought about these things privately, but he's the one with the guts and the freedom to put it out there in the public domain. I'm a life explorer bound by none. I'm taking you along for my journey of exploration if you wanna come. It's just me trying to be honest about it, yet society has made us feel guilty about it and has pushed us to pursue monogamous love and marriage in an effort to try to tame men and control them. For the most part, this has worked. Most men go along with societal norms while always feeling this vague sense of unresolved sexuality within themselves because they have not explored their lives purely, simply, and honestly. Through this book, I can help fill in that hole. We are considerably more primal, self-centered, and pragmatic than the field of psychology gives us credit for or anybody is ever willing to talk about, but I do because I am what I am and I don't particularly care what other people think of me. In fact, it's none of my business, and that's how I live. I don't care about my so-called status out in mainstream society. I'm here for a short while, then I'll die and the world won't skip a beat. All that will have mattered is for me to have tried for a great life true to myself. This book is part of the release of that natural, inspired energy in my attempt to live that glorious lifestyle. The three major theories of psychology are psychoanalysis, behaviorism, and humanism, which all fail because life is more like a dreamy paradise, a desire to release some natural, inspired energy, to do something good and worthy and to have fun, to relish in intense, lusty pleasures and give some love and get it back. It's a smorgasbord of a variety of experiences. Enlightened people find a way to be systematic about it and reduce their lives to the few things that they really like to do, eliminating the rest. Zorba the Greek, James Joyce, Oscar Wilde, D.H. Lawrence and Ovid, the Roman senator taught me more about life than Freud, Skinner, Pavlov, Carl Rogers, or Abraham Maslow. I had to fill some of this book up with psychobabble because that's my job in my effort to provide the best book ever written on the subject on the planet, so I had to cover it all to present everything on one platter. Life ain't all about sex, love, or romance. It's about a lot of other things. Sometimes even the most vital and horniest among us are not interested in love, sex, or romance for a while. We have other interests like the search for natural inspiration or intoxicating highs, or we have more basic problems that supersede these things like trying to pay bills or survive a serious disease. Sex, love, and romance are all nice things, but in the grand scheme of things for me, I answer to other things in order to try to match my own personal standard of life day by day in order to keep my soul/essence as a human being always feeling noble and strong, like I'm using my life energy up the way my God wanted me to when He created me. The release of my natural inspired, non-sexual energy in an intense way day by day is the driving force of my life. Sure, I'm a generic hedonist, but there are a lot of hours in the day. You can only pursue carnal pleasures and romantic love so much, and the rest of the time, if you're enlightened, you have to focus on keeping yourself strong and inspired as an individual. I'm a walking contradiction, as any normal person should be. I want a glorious romantic walk along the beach to a beautiful, radiant sunset of love, but I also live in that primal, depraved, sex-soaked paradise that every other normal man with normal levels of testosterone does, at least in the privacy of his mind. That's where I stand. In an ideal world, I would be like Solomon with his 700 wives and 800 concubines, but I live in the modern world and I'm not filthy rich, so I have to deal with it the best I can, like every other sane person on the planet. This book is just part of that ride. Chapter 5. A Self-Love Narcissism Guide. Self-love info. There is no sin more sickening than love, for it is the very essence of covetousness and the mother of all sin, hence it has the most devotees. Self-love only is pure and without a congregation. He that entirely loves himself induces self-love only. In this he is inexorable, but does not offend like other men. He is akin to the great purpose, his actions explained for him, good seen of his evil, without knowing, everyone satisfied with his will. Do not heaven and earth unite daily in spontaneous homage to this will of self-love? Oh! Wise man, please thyself. Anonymous. If you don't love yourself, who the hell you given your love to? I never loved another person the way I loved myself. I have never been able to sleep with anyone. I require a full-size bed so that I can lie in the middle of it and extend my arms spread eagle on both sides without being obstructed. Mae West, movie star from the golden days of cinema, 1930s to 1950s. Self-love is that balance point when we allow ourselves the freedom from fear and guilt to be who and what we are. In turn, true love for others is to allow them, without resentment and judgment, to be who they are, even if it differs from what we would like them to be. David Icke. There is a lot of me and all so luscious. Walt Whitman. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Oscar Wilde, The Ideal Husband. You don't love anyone but yourself. You just act like you love others in order to get them to love you. It's love on your own terms. Isn't that the way everybody loves, on their own terms? Dialogue something like this in movie Citizen Kane. Loving yourself is simply the attempt to enjoy your life. Loving yourself and loving others all at the same time makes for a good life, better than loving nothing, not even yourself. The general reasoning to my way of thinking is that if you love yourself and spend time culturing your love of self, it means you're immersed in love in general, so it's only natural that you take this healthy attitude and pass it on to others. Some people who love themselves greatly are self-deluded, ignorant bastards and bitches, but me, with my self-love, feel as though I'm aware enough to know I want intimate emotional sensual connections with other people, which is why I bend over backwards to be as sociable as I can, because I love my life so much I want to share it with other like-minded souls. I didn't just write this book to make money. I wrote it because I hope it will be a springboard to help introduce me to the types of people I'm interested in, mainly free-spirited, recreational substance users who can hook me up anywhere I go, and free-spirited, easygoing girls who want to catch a buzz with me and have mutual fun together. This is the golden rule of love. When you love God, yourself, or other people and animals, these things immerse you in love such that you spread it around to other places. Selfishness is excessive greed, getting what you want at the expense of others if need be. Self-love is not excessive greed. It's doing what you want while letting others live and let live without exploiting them in any way at all. The paradox is that self-love usually makes a person less selfish because they feel good about their lives and want to pass it on, man being the sociable creature he is by nature. Romantic love takes a lot of effort and doesn't seem to work for a lot of people, since we all have a different agenda when you get right down to it, even if only slightly, which is why a lot of singles are happy as is, and a lot of people live happily single after they get divorced and realized romantic love wasn't all that it was cracked up to be for them. Only love others if it's part of your love of yourself, that is, if it does something for you that gives you more happiness in your own life. Regardless of your love for others, like your spouse, your children, your parents, siblings, relatives, friends, and humanity, always be aware that a piece of you will always be alone and you have needs for your own pleasure, so at the very least, balance your needs to satisfy yourself with your needs to love others and do caring things for them. Self-love seems like the uncoolest thing around, to openly admit that you love yourself, but it's the most natural thing in the world, even for self-destructive people. Suicide is generally not a product of self-hate. It's the result of self-love. You love yourself so much that you can't bear to go on living in the current state you're in. In the greatest holy book of our culture, the Bible, there's a statement in there that implies that we love ourselves above all else, and its definition of true love is to love your partner as you love your own flesh, a passage out of Ephesians 5:25-33, or love your neighbor as you love yourself from Mark 12:31 and Matthew 19:19. We love ourselves first, which is perfectly fine and natural. The Bible just tells you to love your partner and neighbor as much as you love yourself and seek to nurture and protect them that way. Every morning when you look in the mirror, that's the person you love more than anybody else on the planet. The book How to Be Your Own Best Friend was probably the first book to deal with self-love directly in the 70s, and since then, just about all of our so-called self-help gurus have not been so direct about it because it seems so crass. They like to call it more innocuous terms like self-image, self-esteem, self-respect, or self-care, and always couple it with a love of others and a love of humanity as necessary precursors in order to be happy. Self-love is the most natural thing in the world, regardless of what anybody else says about it. It's only through self-love that you achieve great things and develop the ability to love other people if that's what you want. But if you want to live in your self-centered bubble loving yourself, you will probably live out a great life as a narcissist, a psychological term used to describe what they call a borderline personality disorder. The problem with this alleged personality disorder is that nobody ever shows up at a psychologist's office or mental health facility and says they're narcissists. There's something wrong with them and they want to be cured. Narcissists are the exact opposite. They have superiority complexes, think they're the greatest, and live great lives in their little worlds of self-admiration. That's a great problem to have, to be that confident and happy with yourself. This is a great way to live, in the mania part of manic depressive disorder. Heaven knows there's enough depression in the world. The sure solution is to be a narcissist, love yourself, love your life, and strive for beauty, peace, and happiness all the time. We are all loners stuck in our heads. We have things we want to do that nobody else can or wants to share with us, so my point is to step away from your social rituals just for a minute to see yourself as you really are, away from everything on the planet. Have your family and your little social group, but remember, when it comes right down to it, it's just you alone living your life, the only one who will ever understand it. The identity thing. I can't share my life with anyone until I find out what that life is. The more connected you are with yourself, the more you can connect with another person. Love is placing our happiness in the lives of others. I lost me in trying to find we. Stand together yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart. Khalil Gibran. If being in a relationship makes you feel like you're giving up a part of your individual identity, you'll always resent your lover somewhere down the line. A lot of people can't be in relationships because of this, especially artists and other creative people. What they do is more important to them than being in a relationship. You can't love others greatly unless you've got a good sense of inner harmony first. This is one of the great illusions of the Western world. Seek out romantic love to fulfill the emptiness within, even if you don't have any real semblance of inspired wisdom and a stable identity within you. The institution of marriage in the conventional sense is good for the system because it locks you into a lifestyle of work, responsibility, consumption, and debt as you buy a house and take care of your family, even though you barely took the time to live out the adventure that's supposed to be your life, to explore your essential self first. Other people won't make you happy until you can make yourself happy by discovering your true identity and living by it. So until then, think twice about making a legal contract to live exclusively with one other person for the rest of your life. It just doesn't make good sense. Whether you believe in God or believe we came from nature, the point of life as I see it is that you have to see yourself as a person who was born good and pure with great purpose and passion, and your only true task in life is to reach in, find out what it is, then use it fully on an ongoing basis. It's not enough to be humdrum about it. You must love what you do so much that you derive a high form of inner happiness from doing it. You'd gladly do it without pay just for the joy you get from it. Like Granny said, it gives you a joy down in your heart. Our society hails the ideals of money, material things, status, high position, fame, power, ambition, good looks, sense pleasures, and cheap thrills as the be-all, end-alls of life. A wise person keeps one foot on the ground, grounded in reality, but none of these imposters will ever bring you true happiness. I won't go into a full analysis here, you can do that for yourself. Just let it be known that many have come before you, been there, done that, and ended up flat by living any or a combination of all the above mentioned ideals. The only thing that really matters is to free yourself from this yoke of superficial externals and live simply for your inner soul. For an artist, this activity might be painting pictures; for a dancer, it might be dancing; for a computer nerd, it might be creating a good programs; for some, it's writing. But it all comes down to capturing the power of the soul by doing some kind of activity and getting high from it. When I'm in this state, I'm as close to my heart and soul as I can ever be, and it's truly one of the most transcendent experiences of life. This fuels my attitude and inspiration for life. Many people live for the tangibles like the job and the comfortable apartment, gain a few pounds, then settle into mediocrity and never ever get these highs out of life. When I'm in this zone of a high, the way I feel is worth more than monetary wealth. Money will never ever buy this ultimate feeling of being your original self, wild and free. To me, this is what life is all about, releasing the natural energy in your heart and soul on a regular basis. If you can capture your heart and soul and earn a living from it, then you're ready for the next phase, to fall in love and share it with another person if that's what you want. Many couples have problems for precisely the fact that one or the other is not close to their soul, so they can't love their partner fully. A true lover has a good grasp of who he or she is as a person, meaning they know their souls before they ever consider loving another. When Joseph Campbell coined the term the hero's journey, he referred to the tough, brave individuals among us who go out into the world alone to test themselves and live life for a while to learn who they really are. But some of us are so afraid of this that we go through the mating and marriage dance before we know who we are, which is wrong, because a relationship like this is not based on a true foundation of two strong people loving each other for who they are. You can't love another until you know yourself. If you love another and everything's going peachy cream, you feel fine because you feel loved by them. But if you feel neglected by them or smothered, you feel it's an attack on you, hence an attack on your love of self. If you ever feel like you're not getting enough time for yourself alone to do your own thing, your love for the other suffers because you feel incomplete. Think of it as time for yourself and time for your love of life. If you're smothered by your love life, sooner or later you feel that you're not getting time alone, you subconsciously blame your lover, then suddenly you're out of love. Watch it, this happens all the time but people don't realize it. No matter how much you're in love, get away for a while to center your own thoughts and do your own thing to release your natural energy to help keep you feeling free and transcendent. The lesson is that lovers need a balance of being with each other in love and being alone by themselves to do their own things, center themselves, whatever you want to call it. Balance your self-love with your love for your lover. If you don't, you will fall out of love very quickly because when push comes to shove, love of self almost always wins out over love of another. You need both. Why do newlyweds or people seemingly deeply in love all of a sudden fall out of love? It's a complex issue of not having enough time to love themselves. If you love someone too much and not yourself, you fail because it's not balanced. Only when you reach a high level of sense of self can you be a truly great lover, because it's only then that you've honored yourself enough to want to go beyond yourself to seek out love for its own sake, not less pure motives like insecurity, loneliness, or social pressure, which millions do, lost souls looking for love to fill the emptiness that can never be filled by anyone but you, living out your life according to your true soul. Love is an afterthought to a great life by yourself. It can't fill the whole of existential loneliness in you. Only you can do that by becoming the person you were meant to be, that was in the potential of your genetic seed when you were born. Whereas guys look for the inspired activities that live in their souls, a lot of girls don't have this need. Their only need is to get married, have children, and raise a family, which works out fine for them. This is their life's purpose, so the more they release energy on the family, the more complete and fulfilled they feel, but most guys don't operate like this. The family is a sideshow. They have other fish to fry to give themselves some kind of meaning in their lives. True identity is the precursor for true love. Every conventional, New Age and religious psychobabbling guru is preaching about love and relationships as the key to a happy, fulfilled, great life, but they seem to miss out on two things: your first relationship, which is you by yourself, and how life is actually lived day by day. Our days are long. We spend most of them alone, stuck in our heads, our thoughts known to none but us. Nobody wants to be smothered, to be with their loved ones all the time regardless of how much they love them. You fill up most of the hours every day by yourself, either being inspired and happy about your life, or being generic, mundane, routine, and possibly sad, miserable and depressed if you feel on some level that you're not fulfilling your true destiny or potential in life. Many people feel sad but don't know why. The reason is because you're not honoring the person you feel in your soul that you should have, could have been. This often happens on a subconscious level. Your soul is talking to you, but you're not listening because you've been so brainwashed by the world. The thing that I've discovered about my life is that I cannot be a true, full lover of someone else until and unless I know my own identity and honor it all the time by purging my natural energy to make me feel good, lighthearted, easygoing, and free. Then I have the energy to spare and the desire to complete my life by showering my loving energy onto others. If you don't have this inner wisdom of your own true identity and consciously try to honor yourself every day, you are not a full human being. You are out of harmony with your true nature, and because you feel this emptiness within, you're preoccupied looking for ways to alleviate, which takes away from your ability to be a great lover. Lots of people are brainwashed to think that marriage and family are the most important things in life and the keys to happiness and fulfillment, so they seek to find someone to get married and have a few children, all while they don't have a strong grasp of who they are as individuals. These marriages and families might work out, they might not. Regardless, these people put all their energies into their spouse and their children, which is not healthy because these people are not you. They have their own agendas, their own solitary souls they must contend with. They will spend most of every day by themselves away from you. Your children will leave someday, and your spouse might get tired of you and divorce you, or if not, he will quietly loathe you or just see you as a roommate, not someone he's constantly passionately in love with. Where does that leave you? It should leave you in the same place you are always in, knowing your true identity, honoring that mug in the mirror by releasing inspired energy to that end every day regardless of what the other circumstances of your life are. I've been alone and I've been in love. Through it all, my essence as a human being never changed. Every day I went off to honor my artistic bohemian self by going through my routine of physical and intellectual creative activities. After I do them, I feel good to great and I have the desire and the ease of mind to be a loving person. If I don't do these things to reach my personal standard of how my life should be lived, I'm out of harmony with myself. This unused energy is sitting inside of me making me feel bad because I didn't respect what my essence is as a human being. Most people don't know they have an inherent personal standard of life that they were born with, so they don't make a conscious attempt to constantly release this energy. As a result, they are out of harmony with themselves. They don't live close to the great feeling lives they could be living. They may look for a relationship to fill this void, but you can't fill it with anything other than being true to your pure essence as a human being. This is the big lie or the fallacy of contemporary, modern society brainwashed by psychobabble. They try to tell you to love your spouse and love your kids as your path to happiness and nirvana, but they don't tell you that you can't be a fully loving person unless you've got control of your own life to feel good within yourself, such that you've got the energy to spare to pass some love on because you feel so good and inspired by honoring your soul. If you're a lost soul or a dependent flake who tries to get your sense of identity through your spouse and your kids, you're always gonna fail at some point in time because life is lived alone in your head, and even if you displace this reality by being concerned with your spouse and kids all the time, sooner or later, you will find yourself alone by yourself and you will have to confront who you are or continue to live in denial. Millions of people marry because of cultural brainwash because they think that, according to society's formula, this is the path to freedom and happiness, but they don't know their own identities yet, so as a result, they don't honor themselves day by day. They walk around with this gnawing, empty feeling that they can't put a finger on. They don't know what it is. They're married and working a steady job, society's prescription for happiness, yet they don't feel a sense of full, true joy or a sense of ease about their lives like they're doing what they were born to do. This is why I went off on my free spirit's journey, to discover my true identity. That's what I felt intuitively within me, away from the brainwash of the world. Now that I've found it, I do exactly what I want and exactly what I feel I should be doing with my life every day to honor the divine force that created me. Because of this, I feel good. I have energy to spare. I'm happy. I want to shower my love onto my few intimates, but I'm wise enough to know that I have to keep honoring who I am every day in order to have the state of mind where I feel so good about my life that it's no sweat for me to be a great lover without feeling that I'm cheating myself out of my life or feeling some inner disharmony within. Love and freedom. In the embrace of his beloved, a man forgets the whole world, everything within and without. In the very same way, he who embraces the self knows neither within or without. Yogi Master. In a spiritual marriage there is not bondage but freedom, but this is not true in human marriage. Both recognize that in marrying, they are setting each other free. Each lives his own life and yet share with each other without demanding. You have no right to demand anything, only the privilege of giving. Joel Goldsmith, The Infinite Way. A good marriage is that in which each appoints the other guardian of his solitude. Rainer Maria Rilke. Man is instinctively wired to pass his genes off to as many willing volunteers as he can, at least during the alpha phase of youth. This is a biological fact of life. Society has done a good job of indoctrinating men to the monogamy ideal, but at the very least, barring a casual sex lifestyle, polyamory is a more natural way to live, simply to accommodate a healthy man's eternal need for sexual gratification regardless of what society's conventions might say. I felt a need for monogamy as a young man indoctrinated by the system until about the age of 27, when I finally accepted who I am, a sensual hedonist in pursuit of pleasure. So I finally became free enough to be who I really am, and now as I age, I seem to be getting sentimental and yearning for an old-fashioned love affair, but I'm still stuck in the middle. I want love and my freedom too. We are no further along than the statements I made at the beginning of this book. I can talk about this forever, this rift in a man's soul. I yearn to meet a soulmate equal, but at the same time I'm running like the wind trying to get my dose of life itself. The funny thing is that I wish our society was more accepting of polygamy or multiple boyfriends and girlfriends all living together. I feel that I would happier with 3 or 4 wives rather than with one. By the law of the free spirit ideology, you can do anything you want with anyone at any time you want as long as you're all willing volunteers, consenting adults as they sometimes call it. By the law of love, if you want to settle down and raise a family, you must commit to it. You have to give up casual sex. I'm just saying don't do something for the wrong reason like cultural brainwash. From day one, we're taught that marriage and family are the keys to happiness, but this isn't the universal law of human nature, it's just a rule some wise old men thought up at some time in our early history to keep men in one place helping the women raise their kids. Maybe man is more like the Vikings of old or the marauding groups of so-called crusaders in the Middle Ages who plundered and pillaged whatever they wanted, all in the name of God. I'm more inclined to think that the true nature of man is more like that of a male lion doing what he wants when he wants, procreating with any willing female he comes across, then leaving her behind as he proceeds on his other quests in life. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're a contradictory mix of the two, wanting a bit of each at different times, with the net result being that most of us get reined into the responsibilities of family life while others live out their free selves. In any event, make your own decision. Just don't do things out of cultural brainwash because it's society's way of doing things. We all go through life alone, known to none but us. If you meet a soulmate, she will understand you without having to talk much to see what's on each other's minds, which is a comforting way to live if you can find it. There's no way I could ever satisfy the full extent of my sexual needs in a monogamous relationship, but I presume people couple for other reasons, to feel warmth and comfort between one another, to feel that you always have a cheerleader in your corner no matter what. I may need this when I get older, but for now I don't answer to anyone. I don't want anyone in my face seemingly concerned about my state of mind all the time. I don't want the burden of having to live in the same house and be pleasant to somebody 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Having kids, which virtually all women want, would sacrifice my freedom, and to top it off, some of my hobbies are things no self-respecting girl would tolerate, like my forays into the search for my collective unconscious subconscious mind through the use of shamanistic techniques. So even though society puts overwhelming pressure on us to seek fulfillment through monogamy, I like an intimate connection here and there, but my life is way too free to waste it connected to one other person in what is called an exclusive relationship. For a guy like me, hooked on freedom, I've got too much energy to bother with a monogamous relationship at this point in time. The way I see it, if it ever happens, it will be when I'm about 55 years old, starting to slow down and realize I'm not the young buck I used to be, so I might do it then, but who knows, I just might keep running until I drop off into the ether forevermore. Love can be something somebody else gives you, but mostly, it's the state of mind you're in. You either love yourself and feel loving about life and other people in general, or you don't exactly love your life, which taints everything you think or do with a cynical, self-defeating brush. Just like I measure my life on the inspired soul scale continuum of inspired action versus loss of self, you can measure your relationship on a love scale from 1 to 100 to feel how deep or lost your love is at any point in time. Talk to your partner. Ask him or her how they feel on the scale. 100 is the manifestation of deep cosmic soulmate love made real day by day. 50 is the passionless, roommate type, comfortable old shoes relationship most people live in. 1 is when there's contempt between the players and they openly try to put the other person down or hurt them in some way. True love should be an easy friendship done for the joy and comfort of it all, like two people walking easily together hand in hand on a warm summer's day. This is how you should live your life. Breeze through as a couple, laughing and smiling all at the same time. True love only comes from someone who's lived their lives, know themselves, gotten it all out of their systems, then they know they want love and go for it purely. Don't be brainwashed by that line in the Moody Blues song, "Lookin' for someone to change my life," looking for a miracle in my life because the only one who can change your life is you, the one you look at in the mirror every day, not like all them dumb girls who think Prince Charming is gonna pop out of fantasy land and rescue them. Love is the icing to an otherwise fulfilled life. My life is a conscious experience of the journey. Your love life should be the same conscious journey. Be true to yourself and true to your partner at the same time. That's the hard part, balancing your self-love with the love of another. There are no easy answers. Respect each other, talk, listen and speak the truth. True emotions are never shameful, but most people never express what they really feel inside. There must be a commitment to monogamous love, which is easier said than done in the so-called real world. A perfect relationship is to live in harmony and cooperation, sharing a love and reverence for the beauty of life, two people trying to grow spiritually together. Lack of intimacy and attempts to control your partner are signs of a fear of being yourself, of being a loving person purely unfettered. Until you can free yourself from other people's perceptions of you and do whatever it is that you do out of a feeling within, regardless of outcome in the so-called real world, you will suffer the same mental illness most people do, that of conformity and brainwash, blindly going along with the system, worried about what others might be thinking of you, trying to keep up with the proverbial Joneses, trying to fill the hole within through materialism, social recognition, and capitalist ambition. The ideal is to find someone like you who's got their own life and their own pursuits, who's not a dependent flake and likes to do the same things you do beyond the romance part of it. Society has likened love to a smothering complex, implying that two people in love have to be together as much as possible and be accountable to each other for everything. Along with people seeking out love to fill up empty souls, this is the second major reason why most relationships never work out fully, because the players smother each other and don't let them live out their lives freely. Freedom and love don't have to be mutually exclusive, but in our society, most people have ownership views of love, which is why it's doomed to failure in most cases. Even couples who stay together because they liken love to ownership, then after it becomes passionless and stale, they're too afraid to go it alone, so they stay for mundane comfort's sake. To me, most relationships are dead in the water because the players don't know themselves, don't know their partners, and don't really want to know them, preferring to live in the superficial world of the capitalist mass media system, kinda like I got her, I'm in a relationship, which is what society wants, now leave me alone to my work and my trivial pursuits. I will kiss you sometimes, have sex and go shopping with you, but other than that, you go your way, I will go mine. We will live in the same house, call it love, but it doesn't mean it's love. A small percentage of the population actively strives for romantic love, kinda like two people who can't get enough of each other. This is very rare, easily less than 10% of the population. Love is nice and highly desirable, but even if you find the irreplaceable one, if she goes for one reason or another like death or divorce, it shouldn't mean that you will fall to pieces. Until you learn that you can get along just as well loving someone as being alone, you will always be stuck in the dependency trap, thinking you need someone else to make you whole. You can't tame yourself for someone just because you fall in love, because if you do, it will leave you miserable and resentful of them. True love is two people each with a strong sense of identity who let each other be themselves, which is tough in this repressed world. Life is not either love and domestication or freedom and solitaire. It should be a mixture of the two between two liberated people. I want love and freedom at the same time. We need more lovers accepting of their mates, letting them live their lives and not being so repressed about it. A free-spirited lifestyle is total peace to do what you want, which is why you need a partner who values freedom as much as you do and leaves you to your own devices to explore your life as you see fit. Love can be easy if you're in the right headspace and got money to burn, but it can be tough if you just want it to fill up an empty part of you. The entire problem for 85% of the population is that they think romantic love will fill the emptiness of the unfulfilled soul, but it never does. It should just enhance an already great life alone. Free love websites: alternet.org/sex, barbelith.com/topic/18741, relationships and freedom. bsehungscoaching.at/main_par_04g.html, a relationship means the loss of freedom. breathe-mag.co.uk/83.html, freedom and relationships. content.onlypunjab.com/articles/relationships-and-radical-freedom-/9541. freedomtechnology.org/relationships.htm. lloydwhitling.com/library/relationships.html, freedom of relationships. reading-forum.co.uk/forum/topic.asp?topic_id=672, freedom in relationships the spiritual way. theosophical.ca/freedomgf.htm, freedom in relationships. self-love/self-analysis/self-healing websites. Is self-love selfless or selfish? Society tries to make us feel guilty about the most natural thing in the world, loving ourselves, implying that it's somehow wrong and immoral and we should focus our energies on other people all the time. But as the healthy narcissist I have no problems being kind, courteous, loving and sensitive to others, which is why I don't buy the current psychobabble regarding self-love with the menacing terms pathological narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, simply because it's not that hard to do both, love yourself and love others. In fact, because I love myself so much, I feel good and want to pass this love on to others. I want to share my life and be a part of other people's lives. I don't think it's possible to love others deeply until you first love yourself deeply, because if you don't love yourself deeply on a conscious level, there is some disharmony within you. You can never learn enough about yourself. I'm enlightened, so I don't need the information in the following websites, but there was a time when I was young, naive, and searching for answers that I read a lot of what was out there, only to come to the realization that all the wisdom I would ever need was already in me all along. It's about me and my own natural inherent standard of how I should live my life. If you want to read about what the current psychobablists say, check out the following websites. Some are pro self-love in the spiritual sense. Some imply that it's wrong to love yourself too much, which is a contradiction, because if you can't love yourself highly as one of God's creations, who or what else can you truly love deeply, or who or what else can you let love you deeply? Self-love is tied in with the more common psychobabble terms of self-esteem and self-help. Try #155-158 at the library for books about self-esteem, self-acceptance and self-love. onespirit.com/era of peace/loveself.html. 4therapy.com/consumer/life_topics/article/6713. alternative-therapy.com. answers.com/topic/selfishness. apa.org/releases/narcissist.html. articlebiz.com/article/3621-1-learn-how-to-love-yourself. artofloving.com/love/loveyourself.htm. artofloving.com/love/self-love.htm. bible.org/page.asp?page_id=1039, is self-love biblical? borntoinspire.com. capmag.com/article.asp?id=1578, love is selfish. celebratelove.com/learnlove.htm. discovertheself.com. epm.org/article/sciself.html, self-love and scripture. gmu.edu/departments/csdc/selfesteem.html. gutenberg.net/etext03/malzel10h.htm, malignant self-love narcissism. haruniaya.com, self-deception. healthyplace.com/community/personality_dicer, narcissism. helpyourselftherapy.com/topics/self-love.html. hiptalk.com, experience self-love. loveyourselffirst.com. mentalhelp.net. mountainretreatorg.net/articles/self_love.shtm. mysacredjourney.com, narcissism.blogspot.com, powerofselflove.org, psychoheresy-aware.org/selflove32.html, self.com, selflove.com, self-love.org, self-science.com, shophem.com, self-help magazine, thehappyguy.com, theselfishmode.blogspot.com.